Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah.
This is one of the worst game plans I've ever seen. They look like St. Ignatius playing Miami Dolphins. This is Olentangy and down in Columbus. This is trash, bro. I'm asking people out there all around the world. If you like Joe Woods, just say you like him. Maybe you think you might get to go to the cookout. Maybe you might see it's a lot of cats out here, McNuggets. Maybe they think they might get invited one day. The Browns gonna bring them on as a consultant. I'm from the hood. I ain't never trying to go be no consultant. I'm gonna wear my barbershop hats. I'm gonna put this little camera on, and I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. The Browns are terrible. They are no better than they were X amount of years ago. You tell me what you see about the Cleveland Browns that's different from any regime. It isn't, it's the same. It's just different people.
I do hate when the Browns lose, but I found a silver lining in a Browns loss.
Or his rants.
My man goes off. It is worth watching.
His rants.
I'll be hurt.
G. Bush takes this shit. He takes it as hard as I used to.
Yeah.
Man,
But you'll get over it, bro. When you get someday you'll be all scar tissue, and the stuff will just bounce off you. And Sunday at 4:05, you're like, okay, what's next?
What's for dinner?
What's for dinner?
I got to do two different rants. It's so bad now. It's so bad that I got to do two rants. I finished that one.
Yeah, now you got 2 more hours of it.
And then go right back into another live on my own live stream.
Oh, man.
Just to get it all out. And then I go right to sleep.
And then you wake up and you come right in here for 2 hours.
And then I wake up in here and come in here and talk about
Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, also known as the funeral of the 2022 Cleveland Browns.
Ooh.
It's over.
They're done.
It is over. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to defy anybody to prove me wrong today. At 3-6, it is over. And we're going to talk about the Browns' disappointing loss. The one silver lining in this season had been 4 of those losses were by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
They were very close. But you had the Patriots, you had the Dolphins, and the defense can't stop anything. And we've got 2 hours to break it all down. Adam the Bull joining us from home. Bull, am I wrong at 3-6 that this is the funeral for the Browns? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I can't tell you you're wrong. I wish I could. And it's not even the record to me, Jay. It's just that, there's no way to believe that this team could play any kind of consistent football. It's like it's not impossible to go 7-1 or maybe 6-2, but it is impossible for this team because they've shown no ability to be consistent. And yesterday was the all-time low. Well, not the all-time, but it was the season low.
The season low.
Because coming off a bye to have that bad a performance, everybody's on the chopping block potentially this week.
Bull, not only coming off a bye, but guys, coming off the most impressive performance of the season. Yeah. I looked this up because I can't understand. I talked about on Friday the difference between this team's ceiling and floor. And Bull's point was, that's everybody in the NFL. The Browns lead the league in the gap between ceiling and floor, and they proved it again yesterday. Just for fun, I wanted to look this up. The Browns now, in their last 22 games under Kevin Stefanski, are 8-14. 8-14. Yeah. When you take the Bengals out of that equation,
they become 4-14.
They're 5-14.
Oh.
So anybody not, and I don't know why they get up for Cincinnati. I don't know how they game plan so well for Cincinnati, but whatever the deal is, they do. And there's no denying that. And that's what's so frustrating. You can beat the team that's gone to the AFC Championship last season. You're 3-0 against them in their last 3 games. And when all the starters played, you kicked their ass both times. Yet against the rest of the NFL, they're 5-14. When you go outside of the division, Kevin Stefanski is 3-10 in his last 13 games. Guys, I think today is mostly about, we can hash over what the hell we just saw. But at this point, I think it's more macro to me. What is the biggest issue? because there are issues everywhere you look. One bright spot yesterday I thought was special teams. I thought Ford looked great kicking on the kickoff returns. You know, we made our kicks. We looked okay in that area. But other than that, I don't even know, guys. I don't know where we begin today. Because this is the funeral. Mathematically, they have a less than 5% chance of making the playoffs.
You guys want to see a stat real quick? And this
Show
is
us
a
what-
tough
show us
stat to digest. It comes from Jake Trotter of ESPN. But according to ESPN's FPI, we take tag word full. The Browns now have a 4.5% chance to make the playoffs and a 14% chance to have a top 5 draft pick, which then goes to the Houston
They won't
Texans.
have. Which they won't have. The silver lining in sucking in the NFL is that you at least get to refurbish. Yeah. You get to pick at the top of the draft. Those days are gone. Yeah. Those days are gone. So you have no draft capital. Your entire franchise strategy is on a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, and we don't know what the hell he's going to look like. And by the way, I know he won't play defense.
So let me jump in here because I'm not here for the rants. I like G's rants, right? But I'm not.
I love G's rants.
I'm looking for something different now.
Concrete.
Right. Here, in sports, it's pretty basic, right? I look at a team that just came off a bye week, right? There's no excuse there's no excuse why you're not ready to play. And when you're not ready to play, let me tell you who that falls squarely on. The person running the show.
The head coach.
He don't have you ready to go, right? Now, inside of that, because he got to make sure that people are held accountable, right? We don't hold nobody accountable here, right? We got holes on this team that we elect not to fill, right? For whatever reason. We don't know why we don't fill them, right?
You're talking about the defensive middle.
This team has talent. I see it. Delpit shows up. I mean, I see pieces and parts at times, right? The problem is the person leading the charge is not equipped to lead the charge. And I'm not one to just say change guys out, right? I just been around the business long enough. Either you have it to stick or you don't. And he might be the nicest. He don't have it. Stop playing with me, right? He doesn't have it. I know y'all might like him. He just don't. This ain't about who I like. It's about can you do the job.
Jason,
right?
let's pivot to you because you and I both, and I think a lot of folks have been of the mindset, you can't make any hasty decisions on Kevin Stefanski until we see what he can do with number 4.
Right.
We know what he can do without number 4. Baker Mayfield's not here to blame anymore.
Nope.
We said, and you really put him on blast when the season started, you said Kevin Stefanski is on the clock.
On the clock, bro.
Because all the problem, Odell's gone, Baker's gone, and this is emotional talk. We're all, that's what Clevelanders do. Fire the GM, fire the coach. If you looked on Twitter yesterday, Stefanski and Barry were trending in Ohio from 4 o'clock until right now. They're still trending 1 and 2. Everybody wants to fire the coach and the general manager. And maybe it's warranted. I don't know.
After he get done, come back to me.
You're the voice of reason here. Always have been. You're not going to bring emotion to this conversation like the three of us and even Bull to some extent. Are we wrong? What do we do?
The numbers that you just are indefensible. 3 and 10.
Indefensible.
It's terrible. But here's what I'll say. You thought you were a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. That's why you made the move that you made. You thought you needed a quarterback, and that was it. That's why you went all in to get Deshaun. Now, obviously, defensively, you probably got a lot more problems than you thought you did. And I agree with defensive tackles are a disaster. It's not that they haven't addressed it. It's that they can't find the guys. They've tried to address it, and they keep missing. Is it a personnel? Is it a coaching thing? I don't know. Is it an inability to evaluate the position? But that's the micro.
I'm beginning to seriously question up the food chain, and not just Andrew Barry, DePodesta too. I'm beginning to seriously question because really the restaurant tour, the owner of the restaurant, and the real hierarchy is Haslam and Barry and DePodesta. Whatever the roles are, who the hell knows? They're not transparent enough, so we got to guess. The head chef is Kevin Stefanski. And you know how this works. Stefanski's going to try to put together the best meal he can. But if he's given crap ingredients, he's only going to be able to do so much with that. Now wait. Now I'm not defending Kevin Stefanski. However, I'm just going to tell you that the Bulls don't win all those championships without those filet mignon
Michael
ingredients.
and Scotty.
So you need those pieces. Now, I look at what Daboll. I look at Brad. I look at what Brian Daboll's doing in New York with a quarterback who was about a retread. Let's face it, he was where Baker Mayfield is right now. He's got that club in position to make the playoffs, and despite the fact that the Eagles are undefeated. My question to you is, are the ingredients proper?
But Daboll is doing exactly what Kevin did in 2020.
He is.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's 1 year. So let's come back in year 2 and year 3. Here's the thing. Here's the point. The big point I would make about Kevin.
Okay.
You went all in on a quarterback.
Yeah.
You thought you were quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. You've yet to see what that looks like. And not only did you go all in on this quarterback, the biggest part of your pitch to the quarterback to convince him to come here, aside from the $230 million, the biggest part of your pitch was Kevin. Kevin sitting down with Deshaun and chopping up film for an hour, just the two of them, going over. This is how you did it in Houston. This is how I want to use you here. This is how it'll look. This is how we can do it. You have to give it the chance to see how that looks. And I don't just mean these 6 games. This whole season has been a disaster. I hate the word distraction. I think it's overused in the media. But it fits in this. From the day that trade was made through the entire training camp, this thing hung over every single day. You have to see what this looks like with a full training. All right, well then you know what? Fire everybody, bring everyone else in and start all over again, because that's worked so well for 20 years.
Listen, I knew I said it. This is what I said. I mean, you can rewind the tape. I said, y'all gonna come in here and you think you got time. I told you you can't punt on no season, and that's exactly what they did.
They punted on the season the day it went to 11 games.
No. Listen,
they did.
You, as a defensive coordinator, you don't get an opportunity to talk about Deshaun Watson. He has nothing to do with your job.
No, I don't think Joe Woods is back next year.
He should have been gone weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't think.
This is my point.
Is he back Sunday?
Well,
he probably would have been fired already if he's getting fired now.
I was on this in 2019.
But listen, you can't make change just to make change, because that's how you wind up in this position.
Jay, hold on.
He's right.
Jason's not about making change to make change. Let me just tell you something.
That's what we do in Cleveland. We fire everybody every year or two. I have 20 years of proof. That's what they do.
Listen to me.
We thought we had it right this time.
I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about winning organizations, right? There's certain factors that go on winning organizations. I don't care where you go. One, they hold people accountable. Two, if you ain't got no fire at the helm, you ain't no good. And he don't give you no heat, no fire, no nothing, right? He might be great as the offensive coordinator because he don't have to have no heat.
You know what?
Did you see the special yesterday before the game on Tom Landry? Starback talking about him?
Yeah.
He had some heat. Kept heat on him, right? So if you don't
guys, let me jump in here.
Hold on. Let me finish, Bull. Let me finish, Bull.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right? So if you don't have that accountability at the top of the ticket, now, you need talent. I think the Browns have some talent. The problem is you will emulate the top of the ticket. The ticket is dead on arrival. It's dead on arrival. Your numbers just bared it out, right? I said, so stop telling me, right? And you'll talk about, well, how can you beat the Bengals? Because in all sports, some teams have the number on other teams, right? Ohio State number is held by Wisconsin. Wisconsin come in here and crack Ohio State for decades, right? Decades. So the Browns have the Bengals number.
And they play them twice a year.
And I said, the thing I will tell you this. If you think you're going somewhere with Kevin Stefanski, you are sadly mistaken. It's only going to get worse.
Guys, let me read you this tweet from our Jay, your colleague at WKYC, Ben Axelrod, because I think he sums up. Ben's a smart guy, and I've never actually met Ben in person.
Ben's a wonderful guy. Very smart.
He had this tweet today, and Jason and I have been the defenders of Kevin Stefanski, and so has Ben. But Ben made a great tweet. Let me read this to you. He says, I still believe in Kevin Stefanski, and I'm definitely not writing him off until he has a starting caliber quarterback. That being said, this is the first week this season I don't have the energy to defend him. That being the performance coming off a bye is a tough look. And I agree with that. I have defended Kevin Stefanski. I totally agree too. Yeah. Jason, you and I have defended Kevin Stefanski. I can't defend him this week. Like, I personally wouldn't fire him. I understand what Brad's saying. I understand what G's saying. I think there is an argument that could be made that you could fire him. There's the tweet. I think, and with Jimmy Haslam, you never know. We don't know. Jimmy Haslam could fire Kevin Stefanski any day. I have no energy to defend him. I think down deep he can be the right coach. And maybe part of that is, think about this. If they're wrong, if Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are the wrong guys, which they may be, then that means for a decade, Jimmy Haslam has gotten 0 hirings right. Not 1, not 2, but 0. If Stefanski and Berry are the wrong guys, so, and that's not a reason not to fire somebody, but the reality is if they're the wrong guys, then I have no reason to believe that Jimmy Haslam will get it right with whoever they hire this offseason.
And that's the key.
Because he's gotten every hire wrong.
Yeah.
He is ultimately the biggest problem.
And Bull,
so nothing you can do about
that is the key. And that's why this morning, as I'm deciding which way I want to go on this, I'm so torn. Because there is one part of me that just based on the product that I'm looking at,
right.
There's no fire. We've talked about that
None.
from week 1.
None.
There is no
None.
pulse to this team. And by the way, please, for the love of God, stop carrying Kevin Stefanski's news conferences. I'm going to jump off a building if I have to hear him one more time say the same thing and say nothing at all. Number one. So I made this point earlier in the year, and I'm judging Stefanski in a bubble outside of the mess that he decided to come into.
Okay.
You remember the analogy that I used early this year, and I still believe it. I believe Kevin Stefanski is a good seed in toxic soil.
I 100% agree.
And so here's the proof to that. If you look at an organization, the soil is the foundation, the ownership and the front office. The seeds are the people you hire to do the football. Coaches, players. A tree grows. What fruit comes out of that? If you're the Patriots, you're getting beautiful fruit of all varieties, dropping nonstop all year round.
Yeah.
If you're the Browns, you're dropping Buckeyes. You're dropping poisonous nuts. And that's
Don't
it.
say that about
you
no
may
Buckeyes.
take Kevin
Stop
Stefanski out of this toxic soil and put him into another organization where there's fertile soil to grow. And he may blossom into a beautiful fruit tree that can be productive. But when the soil has people in the organization that would never be hired by any of the other 31 teams, you know who I'm talking about. Someone who's related to the owner, who is a powerful person in this organization, who would not have this job if not for his marital connection, would not have any job in the NFL. Yet he's the constant. He can't get fired. He stays on.
And that's the most dangerous part. That's the most terrifying part.
Because they're ultimately pulling the strings as to which seeds you put in the soil.
And you can't fire them.
So
can't fire the owner, can't fire the
We can try to run
relatives.
him out of town, which we may start here soon.
Listen, we're 5 years too late
When you talk
on
about-
that notion.
when you talk about
we should have done that when they were 0-16.
When you talk about toxic soil, right? So let me be clear to everybody here. This is not the first organization that's had toxic soil.
Of course
right?
not.
So if you go back to the Bulls, they just did a 5-part series on the Bulls. If you went to Chicago, they'd say the whole thing was toxic.
They got Michael Jordan.
But they had the guy at the helm that navigated the toxicity. He did. Phil did. Phil did.
Now watch.
Phil did.
Now watch. Until they got Phil, what were they?
No, hold on. Phil was with us as assistant coach.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
be clear how I started.
So
Doug Collins started to turn it around.
Did Reinsdorf, though, just stumble into that? Because the Michael Jordan thing, he stumbled into.
He stumbled into the Jordan until they brought in Krause that found all the other pieces.
Right.
That's how they got
Can
better.
we debunk something? Can we debunk something? I've been waiting patiently. I just want to debunk something.
Holla.
There's a talking point about how we fire people too closely. I've been giving this out to a lot of people, and I'll offer an answer in the chat. Or anybody on the panel, can you tell me one person the Cleveland Browns fired that went on to be some sort of genius Hall of Fame coach? Give me one.
Belichick?
That you got one Bill
No, the Browns didn't fire him technically.
Technically,
the Browns didn't even fire him. The Ravens fired him.
And I know you're talking about since the rebirth.
So I'm asking.
Well,
so who
what I
did
would
we
say to
fire
your
too quick?
G, to your point, I agree. I actually don't think they fired anybody in the past too quick. I think Kevin Stefanski, who's done a bad job this year, and we could argue did a bad job last year, still show, for me, and I could be wrong. I'll admit, I could be wrong. For me, he showed enough year one, and his offense, again this year, outside of yesterday, has overachieved. No, you disagree that they've not overachieved?
Shake your head no. Yes, it is.
Well, the Patriots too, not just outside yesterday.
Here's what I want to say. In your year one, he showed the same signs that he's been showing in this third year. He had a lot of leads. He let him slip. He wasn't giving people the ball. He couldn't get Odell Beckham Jr. the ball. They shipped him somewhere else. Another coach made him look good. You got Nick Chubb.
He won the Super Bowl.
He won the Super Bowl. You got Nick Chubb. You don't give him the ball. You got Kareem Hunt. You wanted to trade him.
Right.
Why? You got Amari Cooper. Hold on. Amari Cooper.
Okay,
Amari Cooper.
Why'd we keep Kareem Hunt, by the way?
Why did we keep? Look, my point is, he's showing all this promise. With great playmakers, and guess what? He ain't did nothing with none of them. And now you want to tell me he's going to be great with Deshaun Watson.
I didn't say that. I didn't say he's going to be great. I'm optimistic.
I'm saying
I'm optimistic that he. But I will say that the Browns have been a top 10 offense this year with a quarterback who's been a career backup.
Fool's gold.
The fact saying they don't get the ball to Nick Chubb is unfair. That's just,
what do you mean it's unfair? How many carries?
I'm so tired.
How many have 11?
He's like third. He's like third in the league in carries. So he doesn't get the ball.
How many carries did he have yesterday when you got blown out?
That's why they can't give him the ball. They got blown out.
They were down 20,
scored at the
30
end of the
points.
first half. They scored at the start of the third quarter.
When they had receivers, they couldn't get them the ball. Can we keep going?
Maybe Kevin Stefanski's just an offensive coordinator.
That's it.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe
and that's
he's a
okay.
coordinator.
And we've seen a lot of guys, by the way, that have been terrific coordinators. And look at Callahan. Callahan was the head coach at the Raiders. I'll never forget. The Buccaneers, after they won the Super Bowl, I covered that team, were telling us in the locker room, this was stealing. They didn't change their calls at the line from the John Gruden offense, who was there the year before. So they came over to after the first series, they came back and Gruden was like, what are they saying at the line? So Gruden was telling him, he's like, okay, so that's what this means, that's what that means. So Callahan, who's the best position coach in the league, for my money.
By the way, was trash in Nebraska too.
Yes. It's okay that you're a great, and here's my thinking on Stefanski. The bigger the body of work gets, the more I'm getting towards that conclusion. I think he's trying to juggle 8 balls, and 5 of them are dropping. I think maybe he's just good at juggling 3. And so he wasn't willing to give up the offense. And I said, when he refused to hire an offensive coordinator, I said, it's going to cost him his job in the long run.
It's not even 3,
because
Jay.
Why was nobody saying that a week ago against the Bengals?
Yeah, I know they were, but here's the problem. You can't just throw one dart and hit the middle and throw every other dart and miss the dartboard.
But here's the thing.
You have to be
like
consistent.
It or not,
First drive, he comes out and scores a touchdown. So he's good at that. After that, the offense evaporates.
Whether you like it or not, we've been through this before. Every young play caller in the league calls his plays. Every young offensive coach in the league calls plays. It's just the way it is. You may hate it. You may think it's stupid. That's the way it is.
I do hate it.
But that's the way it is. You may be right, but that's the way it is. Every young coach in the league calls their plays.
Jeff Saturday.
That don't look good either.
That
don't look good either.
Well, one game proves nothing.
That's all we have.
They picked him
but
off
he didn't call the offensive plays. He's worried about coaching the team.
He was at rallies. He was eating big Bluefoods.
And if they lose their next 6 games, what are you going to say about that?
So,
I won't bring that up because that would.
But the point is, guys, two things here.
I love the honesty.
Guys, 2 things here. Number one, we have honestly, every week all we do and everybody in this town does is talk about the coaching, which is certainly a factor. I think we're giving the players way too big a pass. But number 2, I think ultimately the Browns are better off. None of us know for sure what's the best thing for the Browns, right? None of us do. Jimmy has them certain.
I do.
But okay, maybe you do, G, but let me just make mine and then you tell me what you think is the best thing. I think the best thing is to give Kevin Stefanski next year, hire a defensive coordinator that is a veteran, that has experience as a head coach, to be the head coach of the defense, which we see in a lot of places with young offensive coaches, and give that the shot. If you got a better head coach, maybe you do. Maybe firing Stefanski and hiring another head coach will work, or maybe it'll just be the same flop that everyone else has been. But I think that's the better bet, is sticking with the head coach, getting a better defensive coordinator, getting a better special teams coach, and seeing what you got with Deshaun Watson. I know people don't want to hear that, but if you hire a new coach, you're doing the same thing, seeing what you got with that guy.
Let me tell
That's
you,
not any more of a guarantee.
When you're the CEO of a place, sometimes you got to make a tough call. It ain't about how nice you are as a person. We just look at your body of work. Your body of work sucks. It does, right? It leads me to feel like I have to explore other opportunities. And I'll go back to this. You name
so
one.
Who you want to
sport,
hire, Brad?
You go back
what do you want to do?
You go back to one sport that tells me that the head coach is not a fiery soul. Show me one that's winning.
No, it's tough.
That's winning.
It's tough.
That's winning. And I don't care if I'm a women's basketball. Maryland head coach Silver, she's a fiery soul. Dawn Staley, I saw her this weekend, a fiery soul. Yeah. They are the ones that are quiet and docile. You will get a few that win, but it's just not the case.
And I'm at you, right? Because you do this for a living. I'm an independent contractor. I talk about sports. I'm not even in corporate America. This is apples to apples. Kevin Stefanski has somebody on his staff. I've been calling him out for 3 years. But everybody is so enamored with offense and quarterbacks, they just feel like, all right, well, you're not in charge of. No, Kevin Stefanski is in charge of the offense, the defense, the special teams, and what they do from week to week. He's not just good. His job is not just top 10 offenses. His job is everything. And if one part is suffering, it is your job to take care of it.
Make the
now,
call.
Brad is the mayor of a whole city. He may have hired somebody. He may have brought him up through the ranks. Mm-hmm. But if he's over here in this department, over in the finance department, and they say, well, the city is bankrupt all of a sudden. Why? Because you made 4 or 5 moves that wasn't getting it done. Now, if Brad sit up there as mayor and say, well, it's not going to do me no good to get rid of him now because he made the mistakes in the past. And since I don't know a short list of people I want to hire to replace him, I'm going to leave him in there. You know what that breeds? That breeds contempt. That breeds people in your organization. Complacency.
But nobody's disagreeing with that, G.
Hold on. I'm just
nobody's disagreeing that Joe Woods shouldn't be fired.
So why is he still here?
I don't know.
Well,
I think he should be fired too.
Well, guess what? That's on your coach. And for every day, every second you let him be at the helm, there are people, employees, not looking at Joe Woods. They're looking at the mayor saying, you're in charge, but you tell us we're accountable, but you can't hold your buddy accountable?
I don't think Kevin Stefanski has the heart to fire.
He can't do it.
No, some people can't fire people. They just don't know how to do it.
I disagree with that.
You disagree with it?
I totally
Who got
disagree with
fired?
that.
Has he fired anybody?
I disagree as well.
I think you're going to see it at the end of the year.
No.
That's too late. If it comes down to save your skin and fire someone, or you're fired,
maybe it does happen. Maybe it does happen in the season. The season's over.
Steve, can we take a 4? Okay, keep that shot right there. Let's just say the decision's made. Let's fire the coach. By a show of hands, who is confident that Jimmy Haslam can get hiring the next coach right? Raise your hand if you're confident.
Well, hold on. Stop.
No. That's a fair question.
Who's hiring?
Because if you're going to, we know who's hiring. It's Jimmy Haslam. So with a show of hands, who here is confident that Jimmy Haslam can bring in the next great head coach to lead the Cleveland Browns?
If it's on Jimmy, I say
it's Jimmy's team.
If it's on Jimmy, I don't have that confidence.
Okay.
Because let me tell you what Jimmy needs. Jimmy could have all the money in the world. You need a football manager to run the show.
And he's probably not related to you.
Right.
Or he probably didn't marry someone
the one that really knows how to run the show.
I'm just new in the business. They can throw them shots. Hey, I don't know who this person is.
So imagine if you're running a corporation. Watch this, because this is what was running through my mind last night.
Come back my way.
You're running a corporation.
All right,
There's 330 million people that you can choose in this country to run your organization.
Got it.
What are the odds that the best qualified person, the person that's going to take your billion-dollar business to the top, married your daughter?
That's slim.
What the hell
Zero.
are the odds?
Hey, this is fourth down.
And that guy's a clown. The guy's an absolute clown if you've met him. He's a total clown show.
I've talked to folks in the NFL. I've said it on this show before. People that cover the NFL. There's a very well-known NFL name that I won't mention because he doesn't want this tag to him. He begged me one day when he saw me wearing my pain. This was during the 0-16. He pulled me aside. We're friends. He said, Jay, I am begging you with everything I have in my heart right now. Please divorce this team. Please. You are in an abusive relationship. this is taking more than its pound of flesh on you. I see you walk these halls and fight that fight. I see you try to carry that banner for the city of Cleveland. You're losing, bro, and you are going to continue to lose. And I said, is it did we build the stadium out of Indian burial ground? What the hell is it? And he said, no, Jay, it's very simple. It's the owner. And that's the guy you can't fire. You can't fire
Jay,
him. Go ahead, Bull.
No, you're 100% right.
I now agree with him. He's
you're
right.
100%. I agree with everything you say. You're 100% right. Don't disagree with anything. The only thing I'll say, and the only thing that is hopeful, is that there are other bad owners in the league.
Mike Brown.
It's Mike Brown's a bad owner. In fact, Mike Brown's daughter, Katie Blackburn, basically runs the Bengals. Now, I believe she's probably more qualified than J.W. Johnson because she's been with the organization since she was a kid. But she still got the job because she's the daughter of the owner.
Sure.
Okay, so it.
And even
I'm not
a
going to say
blind
it's as
squirrel
bad.
finds a nut once in a while.
Exactly.
Bengals. But
And
not this
so
blind squirrel. We don't get it.
The Browns have to overcome more, like the Bengals do, like the Lions do, like the Raiders do, and Washington. Those organizations have been generally bad because they're poorly run with bad owners. And unfortunately, we're stuck with one of those teams. And that doesn't mean you can't win. It just means it's much harder. That's the reality of it.
Because that's the soil. The ownership is the soil. Right. And ours is toxic.
Right. And to your point about the seeds, like Paul DePodesta, you could say what you want about him. He wanted to hire Sean McDermott. Look how that's turned out in Buffalo. It was down to Kevin Stefanski and Robert Saleh for this job. Look what Saleh's doing with the Jets. I do think DePodesta knows what he's doing in terms of trying to build a franchise, build an organization, build a roster, and not build a roster, I'm sorry, put people in place to do their jobs. We have a little bit of evidence that he knows how to find head coaches. It goes back to your point of a good seed and bad. So is he 2 for 3 and Kevin's the one he whiffed on and missed on?
I don't know because and the sad thing is we'll never know until Stefanski gets blown out and goes to whomever and then what do we have? But to G. Bush's point, what coach that we
part of the issue with that though, part of the issue is it is so bad here. You know this. It is so bad here. It's difficult for those guys to go get other opportunities. I do think Mike Pettin probably could. I think he's so
now
scarred.
the toxicity is on them now.
I've seen that with the Cavs, where I've seen really good people get blown out, and they can't get another opportunity because
they're stained.
And they're actually really good at what they do, but they can't get another chance.
Who is that?
I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
Hey, we go overtime.
No, I mean, we don't know. And look, again, if you're the owner and you've hired 8, 10 head coaches and 8 GMs, the odds of you stumbling into someone and getting it right
eventually
should be better than 1 every 16 or 2 every 16.
Right.
What we have to have happen is, and the crazy thing is the juxtaposition of good and bad is right under our nose and we miss it a lot. We have the Guardians who have fertile soil. And we have the Browns with this toxic soil. Yet Dolan, for all of the criticism and arrows this guy takes, has assembled the best management staff, the best front office, the best manager in baseball. And you know what? He's not in the war room on draft day saying, a homeless guy told me, take Johnny Manziel. Take him.
His problem is
he's not meddling. He's gone out and he's hired the best people, and I don't know if any of them are related to him or not, but he's hired the best people in the most critical positions, and they've won.
I'll say this to your point. You talk about toxic. So they used to say that about the Bulls, right? So Reinsdorf goes out and hires Krause.
Right.
Then Reinsdorf removes himself from the fray.
And that's the key.
He stays in the office.
Right.
And
lets Krause do his job.
Until Tony La Russa becomes available.
Till Jerry does his job, right? He gave Jerry all the deference, right? Jerry took all the arrows, all the bullets, all the clubs, all the bats. Right? It's on you. But you put somebody in charge that knew something about the business.
And before we,
and he wasn't
Douglas, I'm gonna toss it to you, but I'm gonna tell you this. You know who he has not had his name mentioned quite enough. One Andrew Berry. Oh my goodness. Listen, you said something the other day that I thought was real cute. Y'all been in lockstep. You see, I won't miss nothing. Y'all was in lockstep. When they had their bye week and they had his little press conference, somebody asked him, hey, Kevin Stefanski, do you have you still have trust in Kevin Stefanski? And he said, I have the same amount of trust when we brought Kevin Stefanski in that we did when they won. I said, we? Oh, so you brought him in, right?
Kevin was here before Andrew was. Kevin got here first.
So that's my thing. When you put yourself in we, I said, oh, so you up top, you the differentiated. So you part of the brass. Y'all not, because I could have swore Kevin was here first, right? So how did you?
I think he was speaking we as the organization, when the Browns.
Watch this. I told you it was OBJ, it was Baker, now it's on Stefanski. You can't hide. You better do something. You better make a move before they pull you in that office and be like, hey, well, the offense looks good.
Hang on. I don't want to let this owner thing go because you brought up a really good point that we need to get back to. When I was at the owners' meetings in Palm Beach, Florida, West Palm last year, I sat with Jimmy and Dee for an hour, and most of it was off the record, but this part was on the record, and this was fairly terrifying. I said, when you got here, I think we might have talked about this on the show before.
I think you brought it up one other time.
I said,
but it's worth repeating.
When you got here, did Pittsburgh prepare you? That's my question. Mm-hmm. Did Pittsburgh prepare you for what you were walking into as majority owners in Cleveland? They laughed at me. They openly laughed at me. And Jimmy said, no, we had no idea what we were getting into. He said, we walked into Pittsburgh. They had Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin, and Ben Roethlisberger at the most important positions of the organization. They had 3 established, respected people who knew what they were doing at the most important positions. And Jimmy said we were getting fitted for Super Bowl rings before we even wrote the equity checks. And they said, we thought this was easy. And they came here without those 3 important positions filled, and they've never been able to fill them. In 10 years of owning this team, they've never been able to get one of them right, let alone all 3. No. GM, head coach, quarterback, they've never gotten one of them right in 10 years.
Do you think they got one of them, 2 of them? Where you at?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get you guys to hold on just long enough to find out. Because again, the whole Browns pitch was $230 million. That had a lot to do with it. Yeah. But guys, Deshaun was going to get paid no matter where he went.
Not that much.
Not that much, but a lot. He wasn't working at McDonald's. He was going to.
What if it was 180 and 230? $50 million is a huge, and it was guaranteed.
But I'm telling
you, that's the piece that I think did it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And aside, set this. I know it's really hard, but set the contract aside.
Because that's the elephant.
Yeah, it is. But their pitch, they were with him for I think 2 hours. They spent 2 hours with Deshaun in Rusty Harden's office. Half of that time was Kevin and Deshaun watching film together, and Kevin showing him, this is how I want to use you. How can you move away from that before you get a real, authentic opportunity to see what that looks like?
Yesterday on one of the pregame, CBS's pregame or halftime show, maybe you guys were watching it, they did a funny thing where they showed Phil Simms doing a jazzercise video. And he did it after he won the Super Bowl, tried to cash in on the money. And they openly joked and laughed at it. It's hilarious. If you see the video, you're like, oh my God, what was Phil thinking? And then when they were all done poking and making jabs, Phil said, nobody asked me where I went right after I shot that video.
To the bank?
And somebody said, where'd you go? And he said, the bank.
The bank.
I've talked to so many professional athletes.
The bank.
That have lost small fortunes and some big fortunes. And I've asked them that one question. Bro, why did you get into that? You didn't need to do that. Why did you do that? The money. I was fooled by people that told me I couldn't say no. And I'm just wondering, okay, the pitch might have been great. And I do think Kevin Stefanski is a great offensive mind. And I think just in that bubble, he can be one hell of an offensive coordinator. What he's proven to me through 2.5 seasons is he cannot lead men to take a hill.
Kevin can be great in the video room.
He's an offensive genius. I still think
guys,
that.
Answer this question.
He may not be the person
to lead your
run
fight.
The show.
Go ahead,
guys. Answer this question. This is because I know Jason's with me on this. So Jay, you, G, and Brad, answer me this question. Would you rather have Kevin Stefanski start next season as a head coach?
Yes.
With a Mike Zimmer type DC,
with
not necessarily
full
Zimmer.
Season with Deshaun, a full off season program,
with a full off season with
training
Deshaun.
Camp.
Yes.
Or would you rather start over with I won't even give you a head coach, but just another head coach.
Somebody that Jimmy hires.
Full change.
Yeah.
No, somebody that Jimmy hires, new GM, because if you're going to fire Stefanski, you got to
And
fire
Bull,
Barry.
I'm with you, and I'm probably with Jason,
hold on.
but it's a close call.
Bull just asked.
But I'm with you.
Bull just asked the question, deserves to be answered.
Yeah.
So no, I
Yes,
don't want
please.
Kevin Stefanski at the helm because he's not qualified.
So you want him fired then?
He's not qualified to be the helm. You can give me the new Zimmer and everybody else. He's not qualified to do what you want him to do. He's just
Bush,
not.
You want him fired?
I would lean by a hair, and if he could get me Zimmer, I'd lean by a hair. But he be the coach, but he's not calling the plays.
Play calling is
See,
not holding this team back.
I'm kind of like, I waffle back and forth on that. I'm wondering how much of his week is being taken up by trying to fix the dumpster fire that is the defense. And if that is the case, then he's not putting all of his efforts into the offense.
And Jay, this is what I've been trying to say. Coaches get so knee deep in the analytics and just plays and the minutia of it. He's not understanding the people part. I don't understand why he doesn't see. He would not even be on the block. You know when he would come in? If he came in Monday and said, you know what, I want to thank Joe Woods for what he's done. I want to thank him for what he's given. And but the defense has not been good enough, and we needed to make a change. If he does that, what it does, it shows the rest of his team and his organization that he understands that accountability counts for something.
Let me tell you why he can't do it.
Why?
He's not politically savvy. He can't read the room.
And you have to be able to do that.
When you're on top of your political game, you come in, you read the room real quick. It don't take it real long. And those that do it damn well.
And survive.
And those that don't, get run out the door.
Because they quit on him.
You go to his press conference every week. It's the same damn thing every time, right? Saying nothing, right?
Saying nothing.
And here, the people here, his constituency that shows up in that stadium every weekend and watches them tune in here and waiting for you to say the words.
We with you. Just go ahead.
The reason I think it's going to happen now is because at 3-5, you win, you're 4-5, hey, you're still in this. But at 3-6 now, and looking at Buffalo, I think if you're going to do it, you do it now.
They turned on OBJ's daddy, and all OBJ daddy was just lay out the case in fact. That's all it was. It was case in fact, right? They didn't like that, right? I said, so your body of work, you just go back, stay in your body of work, right? And this is not about Kevin not being a nice guy, great fan. That's not what we're talking about.
It's funny. G. Bush, you said you would let him go by a hair.
A hair.
So that's 1 7/8 to fire him.
Yeah.
And I think we're 2 1/8 because I'm opposite of you.
No, I would keep him.
Oh, you would keep him?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said you would just by a hair fire.
I said keep him by a hair, but I don't know if I would let him call the play.
So Brad, you're the only one that's out now.
I'll do hairs. See, because when you sit at the top of the ticket, when you clean the house, you got to clean all the house. You can't clean a piece of the house.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you ride,
I'm just terrified at the notion of starting over.
If you riding from the top, you can't save no piece of it. Not one piece of it can you save.
You know, one of the things when I always ask this, when the Browns fire the coach, what's the line look like for teams to snatch them up? Kevin Stefanski would be hired.
Oh yeah,
in a
immediately.
tick.
Immediately.
It would be fired on Monday, hired Monday night by so and so as the offensive
hired as the
coordinator.
OC. He's not gonna be hired as no head coach.
No, you're right. And that's
he'd
why
get another head coach.
Oh no,
he might eventually get another head coach. Not right away.
No,
yes, he would.
You really think he would automatically get a?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
How he's viewed across the league.
So let me ask you
100%.
Let me ask you this, Jason.
It could happen.
Let me ask you this, Jason. How many head coaches you played for?
0.
Okay. As a guy who's been a lifelong playing for head coaches, there's certain DNA in the head coach that are successful. And he has none of the traits.
I'm just telling you.
Just hear me out.
No,
he has none of the freaking traits, right? That don't mean he's not a nice guy. That don't mean he don't know the offensive side of the game. But to lead the regime week in and week out calls you to call shots and take shots. And he don't do either one of them.
But what does that mean exactly, Brad? What does that mean? I want a clarification on that. Because he doesn't scream and yell? I don't know. What is?
It's not all screaming.
Accountability.
It's not all screaming and yelling, bull.
Yeah.
There's pieces and parts that require screaming and yelling. It's holding people accountable, right? Yourself included, right? And then if your people that you are empowering to lead these men are not getting it done, then I hold you accountable, right?
Because what if he fired?
But guess why?
Yeah.
Because I'm being held accountable.
We all are.
Right? So if I don't hold you accountable, right? There's no excuse you can give me for that performance from yesterday. There is none.
At all.
None.
pitiful.
There's none.
There is none.
Nobody's trying to
we
defend
agree.
Indefensible. We know that.
Nobody's defending that. So if he fired Joe Woods today, would that be holding him
No,
accountable?
Yes.
no, here.
Yes. That's holding him accountable.
No,
Yes.
to G, that is. The whole thing got to go. The whole thing has to go.
Well, what's the?
You can't fire the players.
No,
I think at this point we got to agree to disagree on that.
Stefanski is not here. I might like the guy. He's not fit to lead this club, right? Joe Woods not fit to lead this club. The special team guy not fit to lead this club. He's not.
McNuggets, you got something?
That's not.
Yeah, we just got to mention that now we do 2 hours of UCSS each day, and that's not enough for everybody. So we have launched some overtime content where we continue conversations we don't finish, some extra content, and that's all part of our membership tiers for just $1.99 a month. You can be part of the starters tier. You get some awesome emojis, some member-only community posts, and then for $4.99 a month, you get that exclusive overtime content every day right after the show. 5-10 minutes, continuing some conversations, doing some new stuff, a lot of fun segments that we haven't got to yet.
Where we at subscriber-wise? Where we at?
Subscriber-wise, I think 17.6, somewhere in that range.
We need that 18,000. We need that 18. I've been saying 17 for a long time. I think we can get that 18, hit that like button. I think we did decent numbers yesterday on the post-game show.
Post-game show was good, and our numbers today are great.
Yeah.
People are upset. They want answers. And we've spent the first 45 minutes of the show looking at the micro of the Browns situation, coaches, ownership, decisions.
Mike, before you move on.
Yes, Bull.
Before you move on, I just want to throw two promotional things in additionally to back up your point of being on the tier is that it's going to be hours and hours of extra content for less than $60 a year. Also, on December 2nd, Friday, December 2nd, during the show, I am going to be at the Clevelander bar downtown on Friday, December 2nd. I want everybody to join me there. I'll be on the show from there while the rest of the guys are in the studio. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's 3 weeks out, but we got to get through this week first. But
Come on, Mike!
That is
trying to get the hype going.
We can't even. I can't remember what's happened in 2 days out of the last 3.5 weeks.
We got to talk about the players. We've given them a pass for 45 minutes.
That's what I'm getting to here, Bull. That's the transition I'm trying to make before you so politely interrupted. It was really polite of you to ask that you had 2 more promotional things. I do appreciate that. But that's exactly where we're going. Yesterday on the postgame show, Bull and I agree. No, Bull and I, as crazy as it sounds because we're very different people, Bull and I think a lot on the same wavelength when it comes to sports. And I think that means I'm doing a decent job because I respect the crap out of what Bull does on a weekly basis. So, Bull, thank you for confirming some of the times what I think, which we're doing tomorrow, by the way. Second edition of I think tomorrow. A little tease for tomorrow. That's how you tease stuff in the middle of a read. But the players have gotten way too much of a pass, and Bull brought it up yesterday. I 100% agree with him that we look at the coaches. They're coming off a bye week. They're flat, but in the trenches yesterday, Miami dominated both sides of the ball. They ran the ball down Cleveland's throat. This is the 4th time. Let's take, I think, 94, Steve. Let me pull up a stat for you guys I was looking up. Let me find the actual
Jedrick Wills
stat.
just got called for another holding, by the way.
71.
Just now.
He's not good.
They've given up 160 rushing yards in 4 of their last 6 games. 160 rushing yards.
At least.
Take it full.
Right?
At least. Here's their last 6 opponents. The Falcons ran for 202. The Chargers.
The Falcons, and they're the ones that they exposed it.
Yes.
They figured out what we were. Oh, they got no defensive line. It took a couple weeks for teams to figure it out, but since then,
PFF
trash
grades came
show.
out.
3 of those teams,
Oh,
by
let
the
me
way.
guess. Myles Garrett was the highest-rated PFF player of the week.
No, he was not even the highest defensive player on the Browns. The highest grade overall for the team was a 73. It was DPJ.
That's
So,
incredible.
yes,
70?
the coaches do deserve a lot of credit for not putting him in the right positions. The game plan, as G mentioned in the cold open, was very questionable at best. But I do think we are giving the players way too much of a pass. And we're going to do something later in the week. I'm going to tease this up for you, Bull, and then I want you to go. We're going to do something, I think, Thursday. It's called expectation versus reality. We're going to look at each player on the Browns, what we expected this year, what we've gotten. And the number of players who have come up way short on expectations is staggering.
I think
so we're going to
Chubb's
do that
the
on
only guy
Thursday.
that's hit expectations.
There's only a
me.
couple. Don't go into it now. We're going to get to it Thursday.
That's fine.
That's a nice
Hey, did you guys? Did anybody?
That's a nice one. I like that.
After the game ended, did anybody switch over and watch the end of the Bills?
We were on
Vikings
the post-game show, but
Oh,
we'll give
that's
us
right.
updates.
Okay, so the one thing that I was, first of all, it's the best football game of the year. It was unbelievable. If you have time, you go back and just pick it up at the 3-minute warning.
I saw it.
3 minutes to go.
I saw it.
As I'm watching that, and I'm watching one incredible play after another. Playmakers on both teams on both sides of the ball.
High level.
I'm looking at that going, oh my God, the Browns are light years away. And what I noticed was, and this is why I'm not going to really, yes, ultimately the players have to accept responsibility. But what I was figuring out watching that was, it's every player on the Bills offense and every player's on the Bills defense and every player on the Vikings offense and every player on the Vikings defense was stepping up, making these unbelievable Hall of Fame plays with the game in the balance. And what I said was, that's got to be coming from the top because it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Well, let's see.
That's what fertile soil looks like.
Hey, Jay, we'll see. I don't know that the Vikings have had that all fertile soil. We'll see what they do
They're
when things really matter.
They're 8-1.
Listen, they're playing great. Let's see what they do in the playoffs. I'm still waiting for Kirk Cousins' first big win of his career.
I am too. But what I'm saying is the reason I bring that up, I'm not going to blow his horn and everything. All I'm saying is I'm watching two teams play a very, very big football game, and I'm watching players on both sides of the ball on both teams, one after another. The guys that made plays that made me stand up, there were at least 10 of them in the last 3 minutes in overtime.
You're right. Jay.
Yeah.
It's in the culture. Those guys are laying their life on the line for the game.
But the players,
I don't see that on our team.
We can't just keep blaming the coaches for everything. The players have not played well enough. Now, some of it's talent, sure. I think clearly the Browns front seven, they have swung and missed. Andrew Berry in that particular area has been a disaster. I would argue that in terms of the secondary and the offense, I would argue that Berry's overall done a pretty good job. But in the front seven, he's been a disaster. They have no talent besides Myles Garrett, maybe JOK, and that's it. But he's been awful. But the secondary has underperformed. And lately, honestly, the offensive line has not been good. And the offensive line yesterday was awful. They gave Brissett no time to throw.
Well, they took a key piece out of it too.
But he's missed the last few games and they've been okay.
That was a head scratcher too. You know what, Bull? So I know that this goes to show you the delicate balance that it takes to be a general manager in the NFL. I'll never forget overhearing a conversation. It was kind of a media gaggle. It was at a NASCAR race with Joe Gibbs, and this was shortly after Joe Gibbs had left the Redskins and had gone to NASCAR. And the NASCAR press was kind of befuddled by all of this. They were really drilling down on, what the hell do you know about running a race team? How, and I'll never forget Joe's analogy was, Joe said, it doesn't really matter the sport or the business.
Keep coming.
Good CEOs understand that if you have a weak link in a chain, the chain breaks and the machine stops.
Keep coming.
And so what he was talking about was, I love this analogy, and I'll never forget it. He said, in the racing world, it's just like the football world. In football, if you have a great quarterback but a terrible offensive line, you're not going anywhere. If you have a great defense but a horrible offense, you're not going anywhere. What you have to have is strength at every single position. If I have a great paint scheme and a beautiful motor, but a driver off the street, I'm not going to win. But if I have a capable driver, a capable pit crew chief, a capable engine, and brakes, he goes, it can come down to a fluid line snapping with my team being in the lead on the last lap. And if I bought a cheap fluid line and it broke, the machine stops. And when I look at this year's Browns, they got enamored with the pretty paint scheme, Deshaun Watson, and the big engine in Nick Chubb, and the beautiful tires in the offensive line or whatever, however, but they neglected a key component of football. All of the people that have covered football for their life will always tell you the wide receivers are pretty and the running backs are fast, but it's won at the point of attack. Just like a war. It's won. That's why Woody Hayes loved history and war so much. That's where the battle's fought. And if you're notoriously weak up front, you're beaten.
But their offensive line is not weak.
I'm talking
It was
about
just
the
bad
defensive
yesterday.
line, Bull. I'm talking about the defense. The offense of this team is not the problem.
But guys,
it's not the problem.
They have tried addressing it.
They've just gotten it wrong.
No
They've
other
blown it
position. No other position. Go look at their draft history. Defensive tackle is the only position that they've taken a guy every year within the first 4 rounds.
And they've missed.
And so either they can't identify talent or they can't coach the talent. I don't know which it is. But they signed Taven Bryan in free agency.
And he wasn't good in Jacksonville.
They keep missing. It's not that they're not ignoring it.
Could it be both?
Absolutely, it could be both. But
perhaps if they prioritize,
I think it's probably
all
more
of the
one than the other.
groups. I think some teams prioritize all positions. I've had a lot of general managers tell me the 2 key players in football: quarterback, guy that gets after the quarterback. After that, you can start prioritizing everybody else as 2, 3, 4, 5. But 1 is quarterback. 1A is the guy that gets after the quarterback. So if they prioritize their skill groups, maybe it goes like this: quarterback, guy that gets off after the quarterback. Because like in Deshaun Watson, they made a big effort to go get that guy. They've got Myles Garrett. They have Jadeveon Clowney. So those check. But where do they prioritize defensive line? So maybe then it's defensive backs, then it's offensive line, then it's wide receivers, then it's linebackers.
They go for the flash.
It's defensive. It's defensive tackle.
On any good crew, it is the intangible pieces that make you great, right? The ones
You've got to be solid across the board.
That just come in and do their job every day. So you tell me you short on the defensive line up front, right? All right, you tried your picks and everything. They don't seem to be working out, right? There was a guy sitting out here. He might have been old.
Still sitting.
Right? But he's still sitting there. He's a proven commodity.
Yeah.
Right? We ain't buying for 5 years. We just buying for a year. Let's see what you got.
There's got to be more to it. Nobody has signed him. There's got to be something else to it. It might
because everybody else, Bull, doesn't have the worst statistical defensive tackles.
Can't worry about everybody else.
The game.
You know what the Ravens did? The Ravens were weak at linebacker. What did they do? They went out and made a trade for an all-pro linebacker and watched the Ravens win the division now.
Oh, and guess what the Dolphins did? They went and got Bradley Chubb, and he paid instant dividends.
Yep. What did the 49ers do?
Give me Chris McCaffrey. Boom.
And where are they now?
It's not good enough. Simple.
There's no in-season moves.
Well, that has nothing to do with Kevin Stefanski. I mean, you're talking about one trade deadline.
No,
and
3
those
trades.
Those one trade deadline is what I said. Those 3 trades, what did those teams all give up? First-round picks. The Browns don't have a first-round pick to give up.
No, we've already given all that away.
My thing is...
for a quarterback, which makes a lot of sense.
I'm mostly talking about they had a trade piece in Kareem Hunt that they decided to keep, and now they're going to get nothing for him. And guess what? How many touches did Kareem Hunt have yesterday?
We'll pull up the stat graphic in 1 second, but it was not a lot.
They obviously didn't trade him because
Glad
they
they
couldn't
kept
get much
him.
for him.
Glad they kept him.
By the way,
I'd like to see Jerome Ford. It's time to start seeing what Jerome Ford is.
Jay,
so you're gonna complain that they didn't trade Kareem Hunt
Yes.
because they couldn't? They probably couldn't get anything better than a 4th or 5th round pick.
So what? It's more than they're going to get for him now.
No, that's not true because they're going to get a compensation draft pick.
Oh, I forgot about that. That usually makes or breaks teams' fortunes. The compensation.
Well,
picks.
here.
But a 5th round pick they would have gotten for Kareem Hunt, that was going to make or break their fortunes.
You don't know it would have been a 5th round pick. We've talked about Kareem Hunt like he's one of the top backs in the league.
Yeah, but if they could have gotten a good draft pick for him, they would have traded him. Of course, they would have traded him.
Would they?
I agree. Yes. If they could have got a 3rd or 4th.
Did you hear anything about what the offers were?
I don't think they got a 4 for him.
So
I think they would have moved him.
So
what's the point of trading for a 5th or 6th round pick? There's no point in that.
This is the point I was making about the James Robinson trade, and everyone was screaming at me saying Kareem Hunt's better than James Robinson. Okay, fine. I'm not going to argue that. But look at their production. James Robinson has outproduced Kareem Hunt. You were never going to get the 3rd round pick, and I was saying before the season, dangle him out there, see what you can get.
Well, take me back to Ndamukong Suh. You didn't have to give up no picks for him.
No.
But nobody wants him, Brad. He's not on any team. I know the Browns have a bad defensive tackle. There's 20 other teams bad.
All I can tell you about this is, Bull, I can't look at everybody else. I got a problem. I need to rectify.
And why has nobody, if he's that much of a difference maker, why has nobody signed him?
So this is what I'm
Maybe
hearing.
he doesn't want to play.
Hold on.
Maybe he doesn't want to play.
He didn't want to play for less than $15 million. That's what he didn't want.
This is what I'm hearing. I keep hearing why you can't. You know what? I done worked in these offices, and I done been in charge of 15, 20 people, and I done been called on the carpet, and they say, I can't make them come to work. They got COVID. He said, you better do something in today. That's the conversations I done had. So all this putting your hands up, well, we can't do that because he wanted the money. Well, we're not going to spend this. We're not going to. You sitting here telling me 3-6 is okay. Nobody's
saying that, G. You can't change a whole team around at the trade deadline. And Dominican Sue is not turning around this team. Come on.
Let me talk to you and let you understand something. Yeah. You name me one person that's been taken out of the lineup. Who has been demoted for minutes? Quiet. It's crickets in here. Name me one coach who's got fired. Quiet. Crickets. You do the same thing and then come back.
But I don't disagree with you about a coach getting fired.
Listen,
and they have demoted some guys on defense. They had some linebackers starting yesterday. I can't even think of his name.
The special teams guy. He was out there for a lot of snaps.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
Number 51.
Made a nice pass.
Jordan Kasarik.
Tony Fields was out there missing tackles.
Green Williams is a ghost, right?
These people.
Jay.
He got benched.
Who do you want? Jay, who do you want them to start? Their defense stinks up front. The backups aren't any good either.
Listen, see, give me that theme music.
My theme music.
By the way,
ain't gonna break my soul. That's my theme music.
G, do you really believe in Dominican Sue is going to make a difference on this team?
You know what it would have made? Heck yeah.
We'll never know.
Heck yeah.
Then why is nobody signed him? Why is no team signed him?
I don't go through life, bull, looking at other people what they're doing.
I wonder if he's just waiting until December.
Yes, you are. Every comparison you make is what other people do.
Watch this. Hold on.
What the next dude didn't do. I just look at what I need.
I'm going to give you one comparison. If Tyreek Hill played for the Cleveland Browns, would he have the same amount of yards as he does now? No, you wouldn't throw it to him that much. No, he wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't.
He had 1,200 yards.
What does that have to do with the Dominican Sue?
Here's the point.
I don't know.
I'm showing you and I'm comparing.
By the way, we keep bringing up this Odell Beckham nonsense. His numbers weren't that much different than he was in Cleveland, and he was playing with a much better quarterback, and he was the number 2 receiver there. That's a big difference.
No. That's all true. He had 7 touchdowns in 1 year, halfway through the year.
Half a year.
And
a much better team, G. In terms of his catches, it wasn't any different. Yes, he had touchdowns. I give you that. But that has to do more with the quarterback
in fantasy football. In fantasy football, what do they prioritize? Catches or touchdowns? Touchdowns, because that's what matters. Don't tell me.
But G, that has more to do with the quarterback and the team. It's a lot easier for Odell to catch touchdowns when he's playing with the best receiver in football.
Off the street?
He played with the best receiver in football.
Okay, that's an excuse for Odell. Can you tell me why your boy Nick Chubb, the best running back, how many carries he get last week, Bull? 6, 5?
G, they were down 20 points. They weren't running the ball. They ran it too much this week.
7.
The Dolphins are terrible against the pass. Come on now, stop it.
He had 17, they took an L. He had 12, they took an L. Go back to that stat, bring it back. I just want to give him.
You're better than this. You're better.
I am better. I'm just trying to show you. 17, you took an L. 12, you took an L. 16, you took an L. 11, you took an L. He got over 20.
So they should have just let him run it the last 9 times yesterday.
So if he would have ran 9 more times, they would have won?
Hey, listen, I'm telling you, I done talked to people in the locker room. Let me just say this.
Answer the question. Answer the question. G, answer the question.
What's the question?
Answer the question. If they would have ran 9 more times, would they have won? If he would have ran 9 more times, would they have won this game?
Who scored the touchdown?
I'm asking you a question. If he would have ran 9 more times, would the Browns have won this game?
They still gave up 39 points.
They gave up 39 points, fool.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with.
In fact, through
3 quarters, the Browns were 50-50 passing and running in a game they should have been throwing the ball more. Yesterday's game had nothing to do with touches for Nick Chubb. As much as I love him, his fumble crushed them last night.
Well, let me just tell you
by Nick Chubb crushed them.
I don't come out often. I say I'm the least connected dude in the world. I done heard from 2 to 3. I done heard from 2 to 3 players. 2 to 3. Have no confidence in this coaching staff. So we'll take that to the bank.
Well, maybe I got no confidence in those players. Maybe they need to play better.
Hold on. Here's the thing. And this is what we were talking about before. I done played on teams. Brad done played on teams where there are guys who are looking to get you fired.
This ain't the fantasy league.
Because the calculation is this. I know what the cap penalty is. You ain't trading me.
Yeah.
You ain't trading Denzel Ward. You ain't not trading Myles Garrett because their contracts can't come off the books. So when you make the calculation that, all right, well, maybe players aren't playing as good as they're supposed to. No, I'd have been in the locker room. People that sabotage people. You think I'm running down backside? You think I'm about to give my whole heart on this line when I don't believe in you? That's the reality. People will get you fired because they're like, look, I'm going to be here, dog.
McNuggets, give me a 5-minute poll real quick.
5-minute poll. Yes, sir. What do you want?
How many want Stefanski out?
That's a good question.
That's a great poll question.
I'd like to see.
Let's
Now,
get to
look,
it.
they're going to be prisoner of the moment, and
Of
my
course.
guess is
Of
it's
course.
going to be 70-30. Fire them.
I actually saw a poll yesterday
We're
that
going
this
to
guy
take one right now.
This
Go ahead,
guy
Bill.
on Chops on Twitter did it. Chops is a guy who covers the Browns, and he does a lot of stuff on Twitter. What's that when you do the Twitter Live? Whatever
It's a
Twitter
poll.
Live.
Twitter Spaces.
Oh, yeah, Twitter
And by the
Spaces.
way,
Twitter
the
Spaces.
timer's
He did
running.
a poll.
The poll's in
All
the
right.
chat.
He did a poll, and
And come
shockingly,
in when the timer's
80%,
off.
80% of the fans said to not fire Stefanski. I was
Wow.
stunned by
Okay, that is a surprise to me. I would expect that, now if you took that poll after the Cincinnati game, it would have been 99%.
Yeah.
What that shows is it's the fans are fickle.
Prisoner
We're
of the
fickle.
moment.
Of course.
And when we never get to drink at the bar, but we're always standing in line to get in, you lose patience.
And Mikey, when
And
you take that poll in the chat, get some of the comments from people. Why? Tell me why you want him out.
Or
All right,
why
chat,
you want to keep
You
him.
heard from Brad. We want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, tell us why you want to keep him, why you want to fire him, and vote in the poll. If you're not on, go to our where do they have to go to get that? YouTube?
It's on the YouTube chat.
It's on the YouTube chat. So if you're watching another format and you want to participate, go to the YouTube
I'm going to
chat.
read 5 comments.
And-
5 best comments we're going to read too.
All right, let's go.
All right.
If you talk about Stefanski, and I look at all the other coaches that we've had, I can't differentiate. I don't know how he's.
Well, Stefanski's got a winning record, G. Those guys, none of those guys do.
And it's funny. I mean, you said 80% was the poll yesterday. There's 5 of us. 4 of us say keep him. 1 says fire him. So it's 80% keep him, even on our poll, even on our panel.
But by the way, the longer he goes in the season, without making any tangible, visible changes, his poll is going to go down.
Well, before
his approval is going to go down.
Before we do, you know what we
And the
haven't,
seat
what
gets
we
hotter.
haven't done? Go around this panel. Tell me why you want to keep him.
I want to keep him because I do believe he is top tier offensive mind in the NFL. I believe that.
So-
and if it bears it out when you look at the numbers.
So let me just ask you a question.
But
is head coaching just offense, or is it coaching the entire show?
I have a caveat with mine. I want to keep him, but there is a but.
Okay.
He has to bring in a defensive coordinator that produces. And I don't want JW to hire the defensive coordinator. I don't want Jimmy Haslam to hire the defensive
gotta do
coordinator.
it.
I don't want Paul DePodesta anywhere near that move. The problem that I'm seeing with the league is we've moved Ivy League. The NFL
You said that before.
has taken the reins of the game from the people that have played in the trenches and that have an innate feel for it.
Yeah.
I respect your innate feel for professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
I respect your innate feel for highly competitive sports because you've lived it. The problem that we're getting to in the NFL, and I'm looking at these coaches, a lot of these coaches even physically look alike.
Yeah.
Miami's,
Yeah.
Cincinnati's,
Yeah.
Cleveland's,
Yeah.
San Diego, they're all the same guy. They're skinny, small white guys that didn't play football that got an Ivy League degree.
Yeah.
I said San Diego. I watched the Chargers coach, Mr. Brilliant, coach them out of a playoff spot last year. Plain and simple. He made a wrong calculation, and his team missed the playoffs because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched
And
Cincinnati.
plenty of meathead coaches have done the same, Jay.
They have.
plenty of
but
meathead
what I'm
coaches have
saying,
done
the
the same.
point that I'm making with this is
Yeah.
the league has made this, because it's a copycat league, man. You have success with one spot, and the next thing you know, there's a bunch of Ivy Leaguers running the show.
G, why you want to keep him?
How many NFL games did Bill Belichick play, by the way?
Played the game, though. Played it at a pretty high level. I mean, he played collegiate football.
play in the N-
His father was a lifelong successful coach. And trying to say that Bill Belichick, I'm not saying he had to play in the NFL.
Nope.
What I'm saying is, I want to see, like the Jeff Saturday thing was so intriguing to me. I said last week, this is the most interesting Petri dish experiment I've ever seen midseason in the NFL. Because you have the establishment I thought it was really unfair, some of the shots that Jeff Saturday took last week.
He took a lot of shots.
I was shocked that Bill Cowher took the shots he took.
Shots.
Bill Cowher was maybe the most vocal voice against hiring Jeff Saturday that I've seen.
Bill
Joe
Cowher
Thomas.
and Joe
Well,
Thomas.
What did he
were the
say
two
that was
leaders.
unfair?
Joe Thomas slayed him.
Because-
Joe Thomas slayed him. Bill Cowher slayed him. What he said was unfair is, you're not going to do it by the book.
Yeah.
You're gonna go outside the envelope. What, you're going to break the paradigm? Yeah. How dare you? That's insulting to all of us coaches. Hey, everybody laughed at Thomas Edison until the light came on.
He's telling you. They've been saying with coaches, it ain't about how good you are as a coach. It's about is you in the fraternity.
Can you lead the men?
When you coming up through that ranks, it's a fraternity. Now here,
you don't think it's a slap in the face to coaches for handing this guy a job who's never paid his dues?
No, I don't.
I don't care about paying dues.
Two things can be true. It's why
Jeff
I put it on
Saturday's
group
a
chat.
Hall of Fame player.
Of course, it's a slap in the face to coaches coming up the ladder, but it doesn't. If it works, it doesn't matter.
So what?
So
is it a slap in the face when somebody gets passed over for a job because of the color of their skin?
Let's get off Jeff Saturday and get on back to Stefanski, because I don't give a damn about Jeff Saturday.
I got the
By the way,
poll.
Kevin Stefanski. By the way,
hold-
guys, Kevin Stefanski played football in college. So let's not make it seem
G,
like
tell me what you got.
Right, get the poll results, and then I'm going to tell you why.
We do have the poll results, and this wasn't going to be what the
It's a
internet
typical
is saying,
5-minute
but
UCSS poll.
It is a 5-minute UCSS poll,
It's a
5
quickie.
internet comments, and whenever the internet talks to us, it's brought to us by our dear friends over at PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Mentor, Wickham, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.
Number one in airfoils.
/careers
Not
to
number
learn
two.
more. In our classic UCSS 5-minute poll, we had 288 votes.
Woo.
Do you want to take a guess real quick before I read some comments?
I'm gonna say 75, 70-30. Around that, people want to keep him.
Keep him.
73% keep them.
Yep.
26% says no. Also, we want to welcome Drago 3020 to the coaches tier membership platform.
Oh, you
And we got
was
a couple
robbed.
comments to read here. Josh Z says,
Give it a comment.
I'm sorry, but I've watched the team fire coaches over and over. It's just as insane as not making changes. Kenny Miller says Stefanski gets a free ride because of the Watson debacle. Del G says Stefanski's offense is not the problem. His leadership is the problem.
Bingo.
That's the problem.
Becky says
Thanks,
Stefanski is probably the best the Haslams are going to get. Keep him, but fire Woods. Demond says, I think Stefanski can call plays, but he lacks awareness with the temperature of the team. We see it objectively of what obviously needs to be addressed. Defensive coordinator, need to see Watson in before we make any moves. Aaron West says, keep him. Not his fault. Clowney or Garrett decided not to show up. Offensive, fine. We need a new defensive coordinator. And Charles T says Stefanski played college ball as the son of a legendary Pennsylvania coach.
That's
so,
And
thank
Zach
you to the
Taylor
internet.
played
Listen,
college.
and most of
And
these
Zach
guys,
Taylor.
these guys played
Well, but
football.
you said they
I'm
didn't,
not
Jay.
saying they didn't
You were
play
calling them all
football.
nerds. Zach Taylor didn't go to an Ivy League school either,
Listen.
and he was a quarterback in college.
He was, and he was a good one. Dayton, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it's Nebraska.
Nebraska. Here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I think,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that it's got to be all one way or all the other way, but Andy Reid is kind of the old school throwback guy. The other guy, John Madden, some of these guys that just understand the minutia of playing in the NFL for a long time. And Jeff Saturday, whatever he dialed into yesterday with his club, and he clearly dialed into something, it is about leading men. Yes, it's about X's and O's and all of that, but we've all played on teams where we looked at the coach and his dead, wet dish towel personality and thought like, wow, man, so the spark's going to have to come from us guys because it's not going to come from him.
We'd have had team meetings about that.
Yes.
Guys, we're going to have to, it's all on us
It's
today.
up to us.
Because we're not going to.
Look within.
We're going to get a terrible call. Listen, we used to run the triple option. Talk about a kid in 2000s playing for a team that runs the triple freaking option. On 3rd and 7, you're getting a dive play.
It's like the wing T.
Yeah. So what kind of conversations are you having with your teams? Like this is ridiculous. This ain't gonna work. This is you up against the creek. And my thing is like this, man. And one thing that the analytics can't tell you is
What's that?
and I'm gonna go to what Jay said. These dudes is out here putting their body on the line. These dudes got CTE. These dudes could be going to the grave with life-changing things.
Did you see the Derek Carr presser
Yes.
after the loss?
Cried.
If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
That's it.
Jeff Saturday broke that, man.
Jeff Saturday, who was breaking down tape for ESPN 8 days ago,
Yep.
And tweeted, man, the Raiders are terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
actually broke Derek Carr's spirit. He cried at the podium.
Yep.
And you know what? I felt for him.
That's how much they care. That's how much.
And what he said was he's pissed because he knows what this team, what players on this team put in their bodies to be able to go out there on Sunday.
To go to sleep at night.
To go to sleep at night. And then we put this kind of effort forward.
Crazy.
It's a coaching problem there, too. They were picked to make noise. Mm-hmm. They've got the pieces to make noise. But who's the coach?
And
Who's
guess
the
what?
coach?
And you ain't using those pieces. You're not using them, dog.
And then here comes Jeff Saturday sauntering in, taking public shots at the team that he plays
And you
first.
win?
At their
It's
stadium.
one game, guys.
Which
It's
I
one
know it's
game.
one game, but
But
it's not like he lost 48 to nothing, which the media would have loved.
So hold on.
But it's not
And everybody
one game
would've
to them.
loved.
It's not just one game
No.
to the people.
G,
when you hear
Now, they
that,
get the Eagles next.
G,
They get the Eagles
Can we
next.
get back to the question?
Yes, your question.
If they beat the Eagles, there's going to be a whole lot of people backpedaling.
Listen, I'm all for Jeff Saturday,
Okay.
Colts, and everything else.
You want me to answer?
Why
this?
would you keep
let's
Kevin?
come back
He
to it.
wants. He wants.
Why
to
would
come
I
back
keep
to it.
Kevin Stefanski? Well, I'm by a hair. Well, I'll tell you why I wouldn't keep him, because his offense that is dope, that people like by the statistics. I think his offense is fool's gold. And what I mean by that is when I turn on the Dolphins, you watch the Dolphins offense, you watch the Chargers offense, you watch any of these offenses. Kevin Stefanski is just running basic high school playbook stuff like that. Like at the highest levels, you think they're gonna win a Super Bowl when we're playing, throwing the tight ends, and that's not what the game is, dog. Like the game has, we've seen him against other teams. That offense looks innovative. What we're running ain't innovative. You can stop that by just running people in the backfield. I don't like his offense. I don't think it's that innovative. I could get somebody else. But the only reason I would keep him by a hair is this. I would keep him by a hair because I feel like I could get a change at defense. I feel like I could reset that side of the ball. And to their point, I'll give y'all credit. I'm not the biggest contrarian in the world. Deshaun Watson did say, well, I want to play in that offense. So for me, I wouldn't want to play in it, but I'm not Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson said, you know what? This is the reason I'm going to come here. And they probably told him, hey, if you choose us, we'll make some concessions, right? And Deshaun Watson left his other team in Houston because he wasn't involved. My point is, if Deshaun Watson feels that that's the coach he can elevate with together and get it to a certain point, I'll see it out, dog. I owe you the fact that you can see it out. And that's the reason.
Come on, Jay.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I think you're dumbing down his offense. Look at the trash quarterbacks he's had. He's gotten the most out of them. That's why he's throwing to the tight ends. He's got Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield. Okay. They were trying to get away from the 3 tight end sets when they got Deshaun in.
Yep.
And when the suspension went to 11 games, now you got guards playing tight end. You're signing Farrell Brown. So listen, I can say everything. I can say everything you guys are saying about offense. I agree with all of it. Here's the thing. I know you kill him for this, and I actually think this is exactly what that building needs, because that building is insane. And we've all read, go back and read some of the stories in Sports Illustrated about what that building's like. I've talked to coaches who've been in there about how the main thing is never the main thing. It's always just helter-skelter, and it's just insanity.
He's a steadying force.
Absolutely.
And that's what they need.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that their best season was the COVID year when everybody else was out of the building.
They
I don't think
handled
that's
that very well.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
You don't.
I think there's a lot to that. But I like the fact that he is a steady hand. I like the fact that he isn't Freddie, and he isn't.
He is an adult.
He's an adult in the room, and I think they need that. I think this organization needs that, and I think we need to see this all the way through. I don't know how I've become the Stefanski apologist. I've killed him just as much as you guys have.
Really,
I thought the Patriots game was pitiful. Yesterday was deplorable. It's inexcusable.
Here's how you become the Stefanski apologist, because it is logical. And
well, I'm sorry.
And you're not an emotional. I'm emotional. I think we're emotional. But at the end of it, I'm trying to force myself to be logical. That's why I want to keep him.
And here's go ahead.
The offense is not the problem.
No.
Yesterday, I'm going to give you two numbers.
So we still got Bull to get into.
In the micro, explain why they are where they are. They forced 0 punts yesterday. The broadcast crew was making a joke that the punter could have wore a suit to the game yesterday.
Yeah.
He never touched the field.
That's crazy.
They had 0 takeaways.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So
Bye.
When it seems like the dumpster is on fire.
Yeah. Maybe it's because
maybe all the trash inside it you have to get rid of, but the container is good. Fire won't melt that container. I think Stefanski is the container. I think that the offense, when we get Deshaun Watson, all of these little ugly warts are going to look like beauty spots. I believe that. Now, it's not going to happen in the 6 games that he's going to play this year.
Okay.
When the plane's going down, you can let go of the steering wheel and say, well, we're going to crash, or you can try to pull it up, and that's where they are. The plane is coming down rapidly.
Bull, what you got?
Now they have to say,
Bull, what you got?
pull it up.
Hang on.
Offense is worth saving. Get rid of the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Start over next year with a new defensive coordinator and Deshaun Watson.
One other thing I just want to say, Brad, would you want them fired if they were 4-5 or 5-4?
4-5.
If they were 4-5, if they're 1 game better, would we even be having this conversation?
When I get to my take, I'm gonna give you my entire
because
take.
here's the thing.
Probably not. 3-6 and 4-5 is Casby.
But here's the thing. You are what your record is.
You ask me a question, I'm gonna give you an answer.
Well, you said you're going to answer your.
No, Bull before me, then I'm gonna give you my answer.
All right.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, Bull.
but hang on. This is the point I wanted to make. You are what your record is.
Yeah.
There are 3-6. You got to own it. You got to wear it. Football is a game of inches. We all know that. They're a 58-yard kick in week 1 from being 2-7.
You're right.
Here's the only
It all
thing.
comes out in the wash.
That's true. Here's the only thing I'll say. They had a catastrophic historic loss against the Jets that never should have happened. Fall on the onside kick and you're 4-5. They had Baltimore 1. They got a bullcrap penalty in the end zone that should have never been called.
You're right.
We saw push-offs yesterday that were
Way worse.
than what Cooper did in the end zone in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Now you're 5-4.
Yep.
And it looks completely. Now you are what your record is, and you're 3-6. You got to wear
get
it.
it.
They're this close from 5-4. They're also close to 2-7. I'm just saying, this isn't, to me, I don't look at this and say, this isn't salvageable. And you can't make a drastic decision like firing the coach and starting all over until you know it is not salvageable.
Let me get in here, guys.
Let Bull in, please.
Let me get in.
Go ahead.
Let me get in here. It's rare that I have to fight to get in, but when you're remote, fortunately, I'll be back in the studio on Wednesday. I've been told now, so that's good. All right, so here's the thing: the biggest criticism of Stefanski is he's too mellow. We loved him for that in the COVID year. Everybody was lauding him for that, and now that they haven't played as well since, we're killing him for that. We always want the coach that's the opposite. We criticize him for his lack of leadership. On the surface, that seems like a fair criticism. And it may be, but none of us are in the locker room. I don't know that we learn about leadership on the field necessarily, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think they do have leadership on offense. I think it's a major problem on defense. My biggest criticism of Stefanski right now is that they just coming off the bye, this pathetic performance, and I think he's made a huge mistake not firing Joe Woods, as a couple of you have pointed out already. But I think there's way too many positives for me to completely give up. It's all a guessing game. Drafting players, hiring a coach. We can always say, you want experience, you want this, I want a nerd, I want a meathead. It's all a guess. You never know. Even if a coach has been great. You brought up Joe Gibbs before, Jay. He went for a second time as a head coach. He sucked the second time around. So you never know when a guy's going to be a good head coach, a good player. It's very hard to predict. But ultimately, this offense, in my opinion, G talks about it being a boring offense. They don't throw the other 2 tight ends. David Njoku's one this year when he was healthy was one of the. I have no problem with them throwing to him. He's been one of the better tight ends. The other guys don't get that many passes. What's his name that we keep making a big deal about? Pharaoh Brown has had 8 targets. I mean, that's not a lot of passes going his way. So I can't get that carried away. They don't have great depth at wide receiver, although Donovan Peoples-Jones, one of the few pleasant surprises on this team, I think has been very, very good. But ultimately, I'm not firing him because you compared him to the Chargers and some of these other teams that have top quarterbacks. The Browns don't. They will. I think they're going to get a guy who was a top quarterback Will he still be at the end of this year?
He's
and by next year,
practicing
he
this
better
week.
be.
That's
right.
That's, you know.
If he's not, then everybody's getting fired, right? And it's all. But if he is still a top quarterback, then I think Kevin Stefanski's going to do an excellent job with him. I think this idea that he doesn't get the ball to his best players is false. I think it's completely misleading. Nick Chubb, you may want him to be number one, and and certainly we can make an argument for that. But when he's third in carries or whatever it is, or fourth when he is, I don't know what he is right now. You can't say he's not getting the ball. Maybe he's not getting the ball enough for your liking, but he's still getting the ball plenty. Amari Cooper's had 69 targets in 9 games.
Did he play yesterday? He must have been sick. I didn't see him yesterday. Must have been sick. Was Amari there? Did he make the trip to Miami?
I mean, the guy's not going to have a big game every week, Jay. I don't know what are we going to say.
I don't know.
I mean, that was his first. He's only had 3 quiet games this year. Not every, he's not Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's a very good
a buddy of mine who's a
receiver.
Cowboys fan said you're going to love him for 7 or 8 games, and you're going to wonder if he's on the team for the other 8 games.
So far he's had 3. So far it's been 6 good games and 3 bad games. So I don't know what to do.
Leave me enough,
well,
I'll take that.
Dallas is. I mean, it's not. Is Dallas with their wide receivers are so fantastic? They never have bad games.
I still can't believe they let him go.
I
can't believe they let him go.
Is it my turn?
So I think there's more good with bad than Stefanski.
Brad's chomping at the bit to give his why he would fire Stefanski.
And I respect everybody's opinion here. I do. I take it from a different type. I'm not looking at the season record, 4-5, 5-6, whatever, 5-4. It's irrelevant, right? When you're in this business, there are certain principles, and so a lot of it is gut. You know when you're in it and when you're out of it. And you know when people have the ability to do it. I'll give you a case in point. I hate to keep going back to my Chicago day.
That's what you have. That's your experience.
I will tell you, the Bulls, we got to the Eastern, my last year in Chicago, we got to the Eastern Conference Finals. 1 game away from the championship, right? 2 weeks later, they fired Doug Collins. Fired him. That's how Phil got the job. Because they knew it wasn't trending in the right place. You have to have the cojones to go ahead and do it.
Whose call was that? Was that Krause?
That was Reinsdorf's
It was
call.
Reinsdorf?
That's when he came out the office.
You can come closer to home. They fired David Blatt in first place.
Yeah, but I said we're talking about something. We're talking about something different. We're not talking about first place. We're talking about this was a team that was ready to made the investment into pieces, like the Browns that made some investment in some pieces, needed some more pieces, but the person at the helm.
But boy, they got it right with Phil.
But they went on the gut. This thing is not trending well. So if you look at all the markers here, it's not trending well. It's not. It's like the Dow Jones. You don't know what you're going. We buying high, selling low. What are we doing here, right? Mm-hmm. But I will tell you from yesterday's game, I see no more. I need to see no more. The person that's held accountable for not having them prepared to play, and that's holding your players accountable. Because to Bull's point, it's on the players, but somebody got to hold a foot on the neck of the players.
Do we agree that the players are not playing for him?
They're not responding.
Because Bull's point of you got to blame the players.
They're not responding to anything.
Right, and the players are accountable for that. But does anybody see, like in Las Vegas, it's obvious these guys don't care for their coach. They just don't care. They're not playing for him. Do we have that situation here, Jason?
I defer to Brad on a lot of this because he was in the locker room and I wasn't. I have the conversations with guys. I've talked to people around the league.
No, but what do your eyes tell you? Do your eyes tell you these guys are playing for their staff? Because the Jets are playing for their staff. The Giants are playing for their staff.
Yeah, but the Jets coach sucked last year. They weren't playing. Were they not playing for him last year?
No, I know. But you know what? He made that comment about I'm keeping receipts, and his guys rallied around him.
Yeah.
You know what? Our coach
Jay, it's half a season.
We're going to do better.
It's half a season.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Jason.
I think Kevin shows a lot more off the camera than what we see. I think we're judging this wet rag, wet towel, no personality.
Yeah.
Because Kevin just wants to get through a press conference without making a headline.
He hates the media.
That's it.
I mean, he hates dealing.
I don't think he hates the media.
He hates dealing with the media. He doesn't hate the media.
He doesn't want to make a headline.
Right.
He doesn't want it. He just wants to get through it as fast as possible without
Say nothing.
Belichick's the same way.
He's exactly the same
He just
way.
doesn't want to make a headline.
Yeah.
But the guy he is in the locker room and off the camera, I think, is far different than what we see. And listen, all we have to go on is what we see.
What we see.
So I totally get making
And it's
that
not fair.
assumption.
It's not fair.
But
to
I
do
also
that to
think
Kevin.
I'll go back to the play at the goal line. What was it, Atlanta, where they had the holding call and everyone killed him. Everyone killed him and said, how can you make that call? I was told Brissett left the pocket like that wasn't the play call.
Do you know?
Jacoby left the pit. Once Jacoby leaves the pocket and scrambles, when it was a clean pocket, he didn't need to go. Now you get the hold, and now everything goes back. But Kevin doesn't say that. Kevin just says, I have to be better.
Do you know how to get a player to respond? Do you not? No.
Some guys use the media to talk to their team.
No. Sometimes. But you know how you really get a player to respond? Let me take away from you what you love to do.
Yep.
You can bench your quarterback because he left the pocket?
No. I'll talk about Jedrick Wills. I'm tired of talking about that, right? Sit down.
Jedrick Wills.
You sit down.
He's a top candidate.
You sit down.
He's a top. When
I was having trouble with the defensive backs,
They
sit
did
down.
bench him yesterday.
You
they
come
did
on.
it.
You come on in here.
Watch this.
You come on in here.
They
right?
benched Jedrick Wills yesterday. You guys are saying, why haven't they benched anybody? They did.
When I sit down on,
It was long overdue.
He ain't starting next week either.
when I sit down on coaches and you're not getting the job done, you're done. You stepping in here. I'm taking over for you, right? That's how I get your attention.
And
But you know
have
what,
to-
though? I think in this case, it's too late. You can't turn the season around at 3-6.
But what you
at 3 and
You know,
But what you can't. We have to understand is it's 3-6 now.
Yeah.
But for every game they come out here and play worse, that's on your record. People are a prisoner of the moment, right? This is why you go back to Gladiator.
So G,
school.
before we go into the Cavaliers, I'm gonna tell you this. You know what players hate in the locker room the most? If we're in a situation, you don't call a spade a spade.
Call it out.
If you try to BS me and tell me that it's this when I know it's that, and everybody in the building knows that, right?
Yeah.
So when you do that, guess what they do to you? Man, I ain't going out here hustling no more. I ain't doing that.
No, I know.
I'm
That's
not
why
doing
I'm
that.
asking.
I'm not doing that.
Have we hit that threshold?
Because you
where
got
he's
me, you
lost
playing
these
me like a
guys?
sucker. I'm out here putting my body on the line every day,
And
you out here tricking me.
Because
right?
you look at it next year.
Right.
Kevin, all you got to do, this is very simple, Kevin.
Simplistic.
It's very simple. If you would have got rid of Joe Woods when he was playing around earlier, I've been on since 2020 early, where I say Joe Woods, he should be with this defense. The longer he stays around, the longer people gonna look at you as the weakling because you are in charge of him.
That's right.
If you would get rid of him, I wouldn't even be sitting here today talking about you. You know why? Because I would say he's showing me that it's not good enough.
But
When
you
it
have
ain't
to-
good enough,
You
that
have to follow with the next line. Because when I get rid of Joe Woods, the next thing I tell people is this. One of y'all is next.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
One of
it's
y'all
just
is
a
next.
shot. One more thing, then we're going to turn to the Cavs. I'm looking at the Texans game, and you talk about a team that's motivated. First, a fan base and a team. The Texans know that if they beat the Browns, their draft pick gets better.
Yeah.
I think that's an incredibly dangerous game. I've been saying
I'm
that
terrified
for a month.
of that game.
I've been saying it for a month.
Why would the players care about that? The Texans players don't care about that.
Oh, so I think they do.
And
They
suck.
definitely
They're
want
one
Deshaun
seven.
Watson. They absolutely.
First of all, they
want
want just like Seattle wanted to prove to Russell Wilson,
Right.
you bet on the wrong
He
pony.
asked out. He left them.
Yes.
He wanted out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I'm in that locker room, I'm saying we've got a chance to show this guy that he quit on us.
Yeah. They've turned over a lot of their
And
roster.
he went to a team that isn't any better, and we're
Who
going
is
to
even
prove
still
to
on
him.
that roster?
Well, I just said they've turned
still
over a
on
lot
that
of
And
their
I'm not
roster.
even talking about the players, Bull. I'm just talking about
Yep.
the franchise.
Human
the
nature.
franchise.
They
it's
they're
human
horrible.
nature.
They got that start on their
That game scares the hell out of me.
At
It does.
I've said, but I think I said this on the. I don't know. This is not going to be LeBron walking back into Cleveland in 2010, but it's going to be in that realm. And at least in football, the fans aren't right on top of you like they are in basketball.
But boy, is he going to hear it.
But it's going to be.
It's going to be
very,
loud.
And
that
listen,
game scares me. That's the only point I wanted to make.
It's going to be a toxic environment every stadium he walks into outside of Cleveland. But
It is.
that one,
gonna be
and for it
tough.
to be the first one, that I don't think that's.
mean, they
Everyone's
got
looking at
one
that
win
as
on
an
the
easy
year,
win. I know, but they've been in a lot of
Yeah.
games. I don't think they're as bad. I said it about Atlanta. I don't think they're as bad as their record. And Atlanta's turned out to be, I think, better than people thought.
All right, let's go to the Cavs. We've talked this Browns thing into the dirt.
Okay.
So from one depressing Cleveland sports team.
Yeah.
The Cavs now,
This is
I
not
know,
depressing.
it's not nearly as bad with the Cavs.
Yeah.
But here are the facts. They lost last night to a team they should have boat raced. They were playing without Jared Allen. They were playing without Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
It's their 4th straight loss to a team that was under 500. And they've lost those games by 2, 2, 7, and 5. Right. So they're in them. On the bright side, Darius Garland dropped 51 points, 27 in the fourth quarter.
Right. Cavs record.
When they were down 20.
They were down 20, but they were down 24 late in the third, and they got it to within 3 or 4 points at the end. And it was my takeaway was, we know Garland's a superstar, a frontier superstar. We know Mitchell is a frontier superstar. Right. Now it doesn't get any easier. They got to go at Milwaukee Wednesday, so this losing streak is likely to stretch to 5 games. It's what we've said all year long. They've got to figure out how to play with those 2 ball-dominant, superstar, fill up the box score players with 1 basketball.
Yeah.
Brad, what do you say about it?
Well, first, I'm not surprised, right? They got off to a great start, but there's the acclimation period of getting Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell together on the same page and being in the same venue. The other thing that the Cavaliers are short on, and I love their makeup, Karis LeVert's got to be a guy that comes off the bench for me. He just has to be the guy that comes off the bench. The guy they need to sign, I'm going to say it again, is Melo. Melo was sitting out there, right? Because he neutralizes the touches between Mitchell and Garland, right? You have to be able to say, okay, I need to create additional space for these 2 to operate, right? And Karis is not doing an outstanding job. He's doing a great job. But I need his punch off the bench. The losses that you have seen, it is because the 3 spot is not one. We're not defending there. We're not stopping nobody on the defensive end there, right? We're not getting ultimate point production because some days Karis will go high, some days he goes low. He like a little bit like the Dow Jones, and it's okay, right? I can relieve some pressure here, right? Until Mitchell and Garland figure out exactly how to work this thing out, right? Because you have to understand, Donovan Mitchell in Utah was a one-man show out there, basically. Darius Garland here was basically the one-man show here at the end, getting filled in from a few spots. Now, once we learn to operate together, and I always point back to this, go watch the tapes of Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas. They each had to relinquish something of their game for the rest of the group to flourish. And it didn't detract from either one. They're both top 50 players.
That was an experiment too, wasn't it? They had to feel their way through it.
Isaiah was killing them.
Yeah.
And then they drafted Joe.
Right.
And then they walked in and Joe was like, Joe wasn't no meek, mild guy from McNeese State.
Right.
He came in like, no, I got some game here and you're going to give me some bandwidth. And then Isaiah saw he had bandwidth and basically over time relinquished more to Joe. Yeah. Now, if we need to go to Zeke and Zeke give us 30, he could do it.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to do it every night.
Jay, what do you think of that? Melo.
I do think they need to get LeVert out of the starting lineup. I think we agreed on that even before the start of the season. Right. I was a little surprised
that was
he got
the spot
that role.
That we all talked about.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he got that role at the start of the year. I think JB's showing deference to the veteran and the fact that Karis is sort of malleable and will just do anything that's asked of him. And frankly, they don't have any better options right now. You know, Okoro's just been a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Wade would give him the length of the lineup that JB likes playing with, but I don't know that you really want to commit to that. So, you know, I disagree with you in Ndamukong Suh, but I think I might agree with you on Melo. Take a look at him. What's it hurt? What do you got to lose?
Right.
Ultimately, I do think it's going to be okay. But, you know, this is the one thing that I said when they made this trade was Darius was rolling when he had the ball in his hands the whole time. Him and Colin could not figure it out. And as soon as you separated 2 ball-dominant guys, Darius flourished. Well, here you are putting him with another ball-dominant guy. Obviously, Donovan is a better player than Colin, obviously.
And he's going to take the team farther if there was just one of them.
He is. I don't think we're at this point yet, but I wonder if it's going to come to the point, and Brad, I'm curious what you think, where they just say, Darius, you're the point guard, Donovan, you're the 2.
I wondered about that,
we're going to run through it. I don't think we're there yet. You need to give this thing a lot longer.
But that might be a screwdriver turn that they make to see what happens.
Could Donovan thrive in an off ball where he is the 2 and he's not initiating, and if Darius is on the floor, the ball is in his hands?
But Jason, guys, they barely played together, right?
I know.
I mean,
we're not there yet.
Yeah, he's tempering his comments.
But it is. I do think that it's something that they could look at. If we get to the halfway point of the season and Darius's numbers are what they were with Colin, and he's struggling,
I don't think I don't think we have to go that drastic, right? I think that there's a sharing of the ball, right? And I think that, and I keep pointing you back to the Pistons. Just look at it, right? Because Isaiah played off the ball. He was the point guard.
Yeah.
He played off the ball at times. Then Joe took the point. Then Isaiah took the point. And Joe went to the two.
But it wasn't give and take there.
There's a good give. Let me tell you who's instrumental in it. Chuck Daly was instrumental in that. Brendan Malone, the coaches. Hey, we're not taking nothing from you. This kid can help you, right? Yeah. So JB gonna have to reach.
Was Isaiah resistant to that at first?
I think he was because he was the show in Detroit. He was the freaking show, right?
The good thing we have with these guys is there doesn't appear to be a big ego.
So I say when you sit here like that, the coaches have a direct impact on it. JB gonna have to lean into Bernie Bickerstaff. Like, let me holler at you too. I need you too.
Really?
I need you. But I tell you who's been trying to come on? Mobley been trying to come on.
He's
trying to find his way.
I agree with that.
Now, I was just about to pivot
I
to that.
agree with that.
I said because Mobley, to me, it isn't even a bigger problem between Mitchell and Garland. They'll figure it out. One of y'all do this, y'all dribble, y'all got a good skill set, y'all like each other. The thing for me is it's the Mobley thing. Like, sometimes I think they get to a point where you got him and Allen doing pick and rolls at the top of the key the whole fourth quarter. And I'm like, you got something where you can put these guys and play the high-low game, two-man game. They have the advantage most nights with 2 7-footers in their skill set. Sometimes I just don't see the offense where they go down and say, oh, no, it's time to get our bigs involved this time. Because it seems to be my turn, your turn, pick and roll in the fourth quarter. And when I watch Golden State play, they look like they never had people out of position.
See, until last night when Darius went for 51, 27 in the quarter, right? He had a blank look on his face the last 4 or 5 games because he was playing alongside Donovan Mitchell, right? It was like, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be doing out here, right? Then you remove Donovan, and guess who comes back? Darius. That's the guy. Well, you got to meld these two together because I have to. First of all, I cannot be playing Donovan Mitchell 39 minutes a night. I just cannot.
Yeah.
You got to come down, right? And when you coming down and bringing your production down, and Darius, I'm gonna need your production to come up, right? So there's a meeting of the minds here. It's probably in the 20s. It's not in the 30s and 40s, maybe on occasion, but it's in the 20s. That's what and you have to get Mobley. And stop trying to make Mobley the 3. He's not the 3, right? He's a hybrid. Yeah. He's a mixture of a 3 and a 4.
Have you made that determination yet?
When he first came out, I kept asking people, could he be a 3? And the answer was adamant, no, he's a 4. We're not messing with that.
Right. But
I think he's a transcendent talent if he's a 3.
Yes.
Like he is.
I do too, but I question
he cannot put the ball on the floor. He cannot check people out of that perimeter.
And that's the issue. Because he has to be able to do that.
They don't want him guarding Katie and Giannis 35 minutes a night.
Nope.
That's what they don't want.
Yeah, I think Brad's determination is right.
And that's okay.
As much as we'd love for him.
You can switch onto him.
Now me,
he can switch onto those guys.
You can stick me out there. I can guard you 25 feet away from this thing.
You know what?
Right? He cannot do that on a consistent basis.
And I thought this guy wasn't doing that too, so they committed to it. I mean, Lauri Markkanen, what he did last year is put him in position to do what he's doing now. Lauri Markkanen, he's balling.
He killing him. He's killing him.
That being on the perimeter, being able to take the ball inside and outside, I don't know if they committed to it.
The problem with Lauri Markkanen is you don't know when Lauri Markkanen getting hurt and going down.
That's true. You got to be available. That's the biggest part of it. I think, Bull, we haven't heard you much on this conversation, and I'm curious to know where. My thing is, I know that the experiment does seem to be between Garland and Mitchell, but the Mobley piece to this is interesting to me because it's not like you've got. This is a chemistry experiment, and I don't know how you navigate those touches. Are you fully comfortable that they're going to figure this out?
I am. I agree with Brad, and Brad would know better than me. I mean, he's. I just feel like they've barely played together, right? Because Darius missed some time, and Mitchell, and Brad's 100% right. Garland kind of has been having some awkward moments playing with Mitchell so far.
But
he's trying to find his way.
Here's the only thing
I just think we need to give it way more time than they have.
But we had 2 years of evidence of Darius playing with another ball-dominant guard.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just 6 games.
Right.
He had 2 years of evidence playing with another ball-dominant guard.
But Colin Sexton
Colin
gets the
Sexton's not
ball,
Donovan
and
Mitchell.
the ball
Of
never
course
comes
not.
back out. That's different
Yeah,
than
that's the
Donovan
problem.
Mitchell.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying I don't think we're there yet. I don't think I'm
right.
just saying the fix down the road may just be Darius, you're the point guard, Donovan, you play out. Doesn't mean Donovan can never initiate.
Terry Pluto ran a good story in the PD the other day about when they brought Larry Nance in here from Phoenix.
Right.
And that good Cavaliers team. It said they got off to like a 3-12 or 3-13 start.
Yep.
Because there's a ramp up here, and they were starting Brad, Larry Nance, and Hot Rod. And then what they found out was that's not going to work. We have to remove one of the three. And they brought in and put in Mike Sanders in the lineup and told Hot Rod and convinced him it was better for you to come off the bench.
Yeah.
And that's when they took off.
And this team will figure it out, too.
And so that's why I sit out here and I say, okay, Karras, not like Karras has been doing a great job. Karras is playing a hell of a year. But I need Karras off the bench. And I say, give me a guy like Melo. I don't have to give Melo 30 minutes a game, right? I don't. I can give him 20 minutes a night.
A veteran who knows his role, understands his role.
That's the key.
And guys, aren't they missing? It feels like they're kind of the one thing they're missing. And again, it's way too early. But we talk about the Browns, and they're missing maybe that leader, that fiery guy. I feel like that's the one thing missing from this roster. That guy with, we've talked about Jay Crowder before. A guy who's got a little bit of nastiness, a little attitude.
Yeah, we talked about that.
They seem like they have a bunch of nice guys.
Brad,
and
you
maybe
weren't
they
here.
need one player with a little nastiness.
We had that conversation last week. Like the dog. Who's the dog?
The problem with Crowder is Crowder wants some money, right? He got money. He wants some money. Yeah. So what you paying out here?
But if he's the missing link,
they're not going to pay that money. They're just not.
They're not?
Not right now, right? And I said, I sit out here because I watch the things on the side. I watch the things that transpire on the side. I watched Donovan Mitchell how he approaches. He went to Garland. He went to Garland yesterday when Garland was not struggling, but in the midst of the game, like, hey, because Garland was supposed to rotate on the play and didn't rotate him. He went over and said, hey, you better come over here. You got to rotate on that. That's what you need. Yeah. So I say here. They have that guy. This is the thing, right? So to Bull's point, we are far away from this thing, but I will tell you, you got to resolve that thing at the 3.
Right.
That thing is not built for longevity here. And the one thing about this league, they watch tape, and when they get tape on you, they will figure you out.
Hey, are you getting inside intel on the Melo thing, or is that you just dreaming?
No, that's me.
Okay.
Brad's been saying that since the summer.
Okay, so I know, but I just wondered if he's hearing any whispers in the hallways.
But then I saw it on Yahoo Sports. Somebody else said it.
Okay, good. Nuggets, you got a point, then we got to do quick final takes.
We do want to do final takes so we could have some cake with G. Bush at the end here. I was at the game yesterday. Shout out to my boy Matt. Hooked me up with a ticket.
Nice.
Really good seats, and when you're sitting in nice seats, you see some things you don't typically see. And I'm glad Brad brought up what he said about Mitchell. Mitchell was standing up as not necessarily the fiery leader in street clothes, but he was talking to Garland on every timeout. He was encouraging guys when they came off the bench and showed a lot of the leadership intangibles and skills you want to see from a guy who's your best player.
Because they're going to need that.
And you don't see that from the TV broadcast, so I did want to point that out.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
The other thing I wanted to point out, though, was with Mitchell not playing and Allen not playing, you expect Mobley to take a little more aggressive role offensively. And granted, Gobert and Cat are the two forwards, center and forward for Minnesota, and that's a bad matchup for him. But he had 4 shots, and there were stretches of the game where even sitting 15 rows back, 10 rows back, you're like, is Mobley playing? Yeah. And then you look at the box score. He took 4 shots yesterday.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done.
He took 4 shots.
Right.
Didn't make 4. He took 4. And it was a little disheartening because I love Mobley. Just
was
to
he
see him kind of disappear for as long stretches as he did yesterday.
They're playing them two were trying to play bully ball. But see, that's why
it was a bad matchup.
That's why you need somebody to neutralize. I remind people of Melo. Remember when Garnett said something crazy about Melo's wife?
Yeah.
The greatest piece of trash talk of all.
Yeah, maybe.
And Melo was like, "Oh, you ain't seen the end of me.
Yeah, that's right.
The floor, locker room, bus. You'll never get enough of me, right?
But does he have enough left?
Right. I need that to instill upon these young players. This is what this is. This is a mental warfare down here. Right. You're not gonna come down here and punk me. It's not gonna happen today. It ain't gonna. And we getting punked by Cat.
Yeah, Carl Anthony Towns is soft. He's soft as Charmin. He's not.
You may call him soft, but he put his shoulder right into Mobley and Robin Lopez a few times.
I bet he wouldn't have put his shoulder to Charles Oakley. I bet he wouldn't have done that.
A lot of people would.
Anthony Mason.
So
I wouldn't get within 20 feet of Charles.
Let's pivot. We'll do final takes. Do you want to start with Bull because he's remote?
Yeah, Bull, you're first.
Go ahead, Bull.
Yeah, real quick, just on Carmelo Anthony. Nothing more impressive. Brad, I was working in Utica at the time, which is 45 minutes from Syracuse. When Carmelo Anthony led Syracuse to a national championship, I was as dominant a college player as I'd ever seen.
Okay.
He was just ridiculous. Anyway,
Yep, he was.
Final take. Yesterday, Chris Antonetti was on MLB Radio, and he said that the Guardians are absolutely not going to trade Shane Bieber. This was an exact quote. Now, you could say, well, GMs lie and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I guess in theory, if the Guardians got overwhelmed with an offer that was just too good to refuse, they might trade him. But knowing Chris Antonetti like we do, Chris Antonetti went to the same school of talking to the media as Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, which is saying nothing and don't say anything that could come back to bite you.
Yeah,
so the
true.
fact that he went on MLB Radio and said they're not going to trade Shane Bieber makes me think that's legit. Now, Zach Meisel of The Athletic, I spoke with him before the end of the season. He also said he didn't think Bieber was going to get traded. I think this is great. Now, they'll probably trade him next offseason, but the Guardians need to follow up on what they did this year. They need to add, not subtract. And the fact that they're going to keep their best pitcher for another year, to me, is huge. And I'm really excited about this offseason for the Guardians. I think they're actually going to spend a little money.
I applaud that, too. I think you're absolutely right. It's time that I'm sick of being a feeder system to the coastal teams with all the money. Keep these pieces while we have them. Great take, Bull. Brad?
Shout out to women's college basketball here. I had an opportunity to watch the #1 rated team in the country play on Friday in Maryland. I watched South Carolina versus Maryland Terrapins. As you know, my daughter plays for the Terps, and I got to see a quality basketball game with quality high-level players all playing on the floor right in front of my face. And I want to really give a shout out, not just women's college basketball, but people having the opportunity to see it because they had a tremendous crowd. You got to see good young talent. You also got to see the other side of it is the women's sport is traveling well. South Carolina brought a lot of people to Maryland to see this game. They did. And I'm going to give a shout out to Dawn Staley because Dawn Staley, you talk about fiery on the sideline, holding her own players across. She got all Americans to play for. She won't even let them in the game, right? You don't do what's necessary, you don't get the floor. That's how she plays it. And that's what I said, that's the mark of a good coach. The other thing I would tell you is when you're the CEO of the place, you're in charge of the entire place. So she walks out, not with South Carolina gear on during the game. Her gear was free BG. Free Brittany Griner. And I want to this is my shout out to Dawn Staley. You keep doing what you're doing, right? Because you got to keep heat on the people to make sure they don't forget about this girl. This girl has been transferred to a penal colony now, right? In Russia, you don't know where she is. She could be in Siberia for all you know, right? Doing God knows what, right? Because she's out of sight, out of mind. And while everybody's sitting in the embassy chilling, right? Let's not forget the task at hand, right? You got to go back, and just like every other American that's caught overseas, we don't leave people behind. Go back and get your people. So shout out to Dawn Staley, South Carolina Gamecocks, Terrapins for keeping women's college basketball. And if you haven't seen women's college basketball, go downtown and see Cleveland State women's basketball. Go down to Columbus, watch my alma mater.
Read that line score from your girl.
15,
baby played well.
15-6 after, and then I watched in the South Carolina game. She started playing well really in the second half, going at them. And I said, that's the mentality you got to come out with all the time. Where she barking at them like, I don't care what y'all talking about out here. That's right. I said, we from Cleveland. We ain't from Cincinnati.
Sam White. Reversed.
She's soft.
Sophomore.
Jason?
I kind of gave mine away already. I was going to actually talk about Jeff Saturday. Was going to be my final take today. And just the fact that two things can be true at once. And I think Bill Cowher is right. I think it is a slap in the face to coaches who are trying to come up in the industry. There's only 32 of these jobs, and to pluck somebody who's your buddy and has zero experience beyond the high school level as an NFL head coach is jarring and alarming. And yet, if it works, nobody's going to care. And I think we're a long way from knowing whether or not it works. It's just funny to me the swings that this story has taken. When it was first announced that he was the head coach, I think it was outrage across. Everyone was like, what are the Colts doing? This is insane. Then he wins a game, and everyone goes, see, look at that. They knew what they were doing all along, and good on you, Jeff Saturday. And now if they lose 3 or 4 straight, as the thing continues to swing back and forth, right. We just need to let this get to the end of the season, find out if he does have any idea what he's doing or not. It is outside the box, certainly. I would only caution, my only point of caution would be there is something to knowing the culture and knowing the routine. And Jeff, and the comparison I'm going to make is not exactly apples to apples, But the Cavs tried to go outside the box with David Blatt, and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But he was this guy who had head coach experience, didn't know the NBA, and
Not in the league, though.
Dan thought he was going to sort of reinvent everything and look at how smart we are. We're going to bring this guy in. And it was a disaster. He didn't know the league. He didn't know the culture. He had no idea what he was doing. Couldn't even draw up an inbounds play half the time. So how's this going to go with Jeff Saturday? We're going to find out. He knows the culture of the NFL, but he doesn't know the day-to-day routine of being a head coach. I was surprised at how vocal Joe Thomas was. Joe doesn't normally get that animated, and he just absolutely murdered Irsay and Jeff Saturday. And now we see. Now they got the rest of the season to find out. It will, if this works, it will make people rethink hires. There's no question about it. We've seen it in politics with people who came from outside the game and had a political career. Now we're seeing it in the NFL. People who come from outside the club. There will be other instances like this if this works with Jeff Saturday and the Colts.
Man.
Well said. I agree.
Hey,
Birthday boy?
Hey, Anthony, I need some help, dog. I need you to give me this cake, man.
Hold on. Let Jay go first. Then.
Joe,
Let Jay
go,
go
Jay.
first.
Go,
and
Jay.
then
I'm going to be quick. I sent you 2 pictures.
Let's take the first tag.
I'm going to do my weekend in pictures, okay? First of all, I want to say
that was hilarious.
This was the low point, okay?
That was hilarious.
Sorry I had to bring these clowns. So again, we're back to being the
Back to being the punchline.
We're back to being the punchline.
The clowns.
So you have that, which seems to be perpetual. It's been that way most of my adult life. We, in Cleveland, rooting for the Browns, are the national punchline. And now I want to say thank God for Ohio State football. Because if not for Ohio State football, I probably would have jumped off a bridge by now. This is my picture of the weekend for Ohio State football. Guys, I want you to look at that and ask yourself, how in the world is that humanly possible?
It was the most ridiculous catch I've seen in a long time.
When I saw it, first of all, I think the kid's going to be a tremendous NFL pro. Yeah. He's going to be a high draft pick. He may end up being the #1 overall pick. That's how good this kid is. But when I saw that play in real time, I had to go back and I had to freeze frame it and say, how did he do that? 95% of his body was out of bounds. Yet in midair, like a tap dancer, he kept his left foot from touching the ground while reaching back, all with his momentum taking him out of bounds, and a defender draped on him, and tapped his right foot in bounds. That, kids, is what effort looks like. And that effort comes from great lineage. His dad was one of the greatest to ever play the position. But it also comes from culture. It comes from culture that exists in Columbus that doesn't exist in Cleveland. Nothing but your best is ever tolerated. Ever. From every single player that puts on the uniform, that steps on the field, you will give it everything you have every time you go out there. That's culture. Winning breeds winning, Ohio State. Losing breeds losing, Cleveland. Thank you, Ohio State, because I would otherwise be insane without you.
That catch. First of all, that looked fake. His little feet right underneath his shoulders.
Were you watching? Did you see the?
It looks fake in real life too. It was absurd.
How do you not tear all of this in here? All of this, all your inner thigh, all that meat should be off the bone.
I don't know.
Hanging off like a ham.
Man, we got cake.
We got cake on deck for G. Bush's birthday.
It's like a ham.
Hey, I got to shout out to.
How old are you, first of all?
41.
Happy 41st.
And see, I'm young. I'm a young. See, y'all don't be out here. See, I be wearing this kind of stuff. I'm a young 41. Some of y'all dudes be old in the face, man. You better get your exfoliation on, man. Y'all looking old. Don't do it to yourself.
Go down to the spot.
Hey, but shout
out.
out.
Black don't crack. Though.
Yeah, you know, right? Shout out to my mom and dad. They was in the civil rights movement, and they still look young. Yeah, still look young.
They do. I've met them.
That's crazy. Shout out to Cakes by Kimmy, by the way, man. This she did a tremendous job.
Cakes by
Let's get these
by
up
who?
here.
Cakes by Kimmy.
Let's get these
Look at that.
Kimmy.
That is a pound cake birthday cake.
Get this cake
This is a caramel custard joint. Look at this. This is homemade with the drizzle. She's from Canton. You can check her out. Her name is Kimmy Chaney on Facebook.
Grab that one.
She gave it to my mom and had them bring it to me.
Really?
They drove it all the way from Canton just for me to get it.
Is this a family friend? You know?
Well,
slice that up so we can talk about how good it is.
All right, let's get
give me some
And we're
more.
going to eat it live during overtime. So if you're not a member, you can be a member, watch us eat cake live on overtime.
And where's this one from? Is this the one we brought?
Shout out to whoever brought me this. Y'all beautiful.
That's from the production staff. Shout out Anthony for picking it up. Anthony, what kind of cake is it? Casada cake.
Oh,
G. Bush's favorite.
Y'all do me so good, man. Shout out to you guys, man. By the way, man, 2 cakes, it don't get no better than this. And I finally say this, man. I always look at it by birthdays. I say, you're doing better than you did last year at your birthday, right?
Yeah.
That's all I care about. And last year at this time, I was working at a job. I didn't even know if I wanted to be there. I was just like, man, I had caught COVID. We were sick. I had a bunch of people in my family unfortunately passed away to COVID. And you know what? I was in my car with my wife, and I said, man, I'm going to go ahead and do it. She said, what you talking about? She hadn't even had a job here. She just got here from the Philippines. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pray to God that I can work in this industry full time. And she said, bless her little heart, she says, I'll help you. I'll get a job at Walmart. I said, no, I'm not going to quit my job. And then a couple weeks later, Steve called me about this job. And I said, wow, man, that is a beautiful thing. So it's a blessing. And I met all these beautiful people in 1 year. I got friends I didn't even know about. I got family members that these cats support me. Thank you guys so much. I couldn't have had a better year, and I'm looking forward to many more years with my new family, my new team, and my new friends. I appreciate you guys and everybody watching UCSS out there for supporting us. Thank you. This is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
It's been a good lap around the sun for you.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, it has.
And I'll tell you, read the book God Winks. Everybody, it's my manual for life. I always recommend it. It's called God Winks, and it talks about things that happen in your life that might be insignificant but change the course of your life. And that's what it's when God looks at you and winks. Yeah. It's a great book. It's not overly religious, but obviously it's got some religious undertones, but it's just it's a marvelous book. Check it out. Happy birthday. We're done. We're going to overtime.
We're going
to eat this cake on overtime. So if you're not a member, you can subscribe right now, and you can watch us eat this cake and give our reviews
bets,
of it.
Yep. Sponsored by PCC. Eating cake, sponsored by PCC. We love you, PCC.
Awesome.
Aditi, Mary Kay tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.
See you tomorrow.